on the audio, but I forgot to turn on the cameras. Now we're live on the video too.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. So Eric and I were talking about the NASDAQ conference. Eric, when did you leave?
My flight was Saturday afternoon. Bill flew out Saturday morning, and I flew out Saturday afternoon.
Did you get a chance to see
But
Donald Broughton's presentation?
I saw most of it. I didn't get to see all of it, but that guy was phenomenal.
Isn't he good?
He is so fast and so quick-witted and so much full of energy. Like it blew me away. I was like, wow, this guy, he literally, and I've heard this term used before and I never experienced it, but energized the room.
Yeah.
Like his statistics and his thoughts and his, just his whole presentation. He had that little laser pointer that he was pointing back and forth to the screens.
Right.
At one point, I thought it was like a Laser Floyd show. He was just like dancing around and swinging at him. He was just on fire. The guy is really cool. I really enjoyed listening to him.
Now, it's not what you expect from a financial analyst, is it? Usually those guys are so boring and so dry, but he is
Yes.
like you can't look away when he's on stage.
And don't take offense to this, and I don't mean this towards you, but a bald guy with glasses and a bow tie in a financial backing history in his education stuff, just think, this guy, probably isn't my cup of tea, but he was a very good speaker. Really enjoyed his message.
Here's the other thing, and I have to sit through a lot of these kind of presentations, and normally when I see somebody put all those charts on the screen, I just look away because normally you can't see anything. That the chart does nothing but confuse you, and you're usually trying to look at it and figure it out, and then you miss what they're really saying, and charts usually don't work in a presentation like that. He is better with charts than anybody I've ever seen. Every chart he put up there, as soon as I looked at it, I could see what he was talking about, and it helped me understand it. But that's a real talent in and of itself to be able to do that with charts.
Yes. Yeah, he was very up to speed with
it. And then you had to love the message.
Yeah. Yes, I did. Trucking is coming back.
The economy.
And Russia will not win the war.
Yeah. At the end, I'm not sure how. I mean, you could tell what he was leading up to, but at the end, he made the claim, Bruce, you got to love this. He said, we are in for, in our economy and our country, we're in for 10 to 15 years of prosperity like we haven't seen in our lifetime. That was his claim.
That's pretty awesome, and I think a lot of the population feels that way right now.
Yeah, and he's not just. This was not just about the election. He watches the entire economy, everything that's going on. One of the biggest reasons he said we are in for a really booming economy is because there's going to be a lot of nearshoring. We're going to bring manufacturing back to the United States. And a lot of people think it's because of the tariffs. It's not. That will help, but it's more about all these new manufacturing technologies, how much easier and cheaper it is now to manufacture things here. And unfortunately, or not, I know people freak out about this, but the reason it's going to become so cheap to manufacture things is not going to take many people. We're going to be able to build very automated factories that just don't need a lot of labor. And labor is why we build everything in China, because it's so cheap. But then we have this worldwide shipping cost. So if we could do it here and not need people, unfortunately, things will get really cheap and we'll manufacture them here, which creates other jobs and more economic activity. So that's his prediction. It was very, very optimistic.
Well, I look at it this way. You've got Elon Musk working with Trump. Trump's a doer. He likes to accomplish things and do them quickly and get them done and move on to the next. You've got Elon with probably the most brilliant mind alive in the world today, feeding ideas into Trump's head, and Those two together are going to be absolutely phenomenal.
Well, and then throw in Vivek Ramaswamy, who's also extremely brilliant when it comes to business and just across the board. It's a pretty incredible team. And other than Vivek, I think almost everybody you see around him, including himself, they were all Democrats at one point, most of their life. Isn't that it's crazy? I know.
We voted Republican and hired Democrats.
We sure did. The whole bunch of them.
So the Democrat people should be happy.
You would think.
So if you were a great Democrat and you decided to become a Republican, all of a sudden the Democrats don't like you anymore.
Right.
What about Scarborough and his partner going to Mar-a-Lago now, huh?
Yeah. Yeah, that was
MSNBC. And there you go, Kevin. You can buy CNN and MSNBC right now.
Yes, somebody's going to. Maybe Elon's going to buy it. I don't
know.
Oh,
it'd be wonderful if Elon bought them.
Hey, Bruce, I don't know.
He had to buy.
Speaking of Elon, I mean, he is really an incredible mind. I don't care what anybody thinks about him. The things he is accomplishing right now. Have you seen that shot of first the rocket coming back down and being caught on the landing? You've seen that one, right?
No, I haven't seen it. Just I heard Trump talk about it.
You got to see it. But now there's an even better one, because now there's a video where one of those rockets is landing and being caught and the other one is being launched at the same time. Remember in the 60s when we were watching the space program, and then into the 80s with the space shuttle program? And I lived in Orlando during the heyday of the space shuttle. So I watched a ton of those launches. That was a big deal. If there was a launch, you went over to watch it. Well, do you realize how many rockets Elon has launched this year? I had no idea.
I have no.
Like, to me, it's like a big deal. Like maybe one every couple of months is what you're used to. He has already launched 112 rockets this year.
Wow.
And his plan is that not only will that rocket come back and be caught the way we're watching, but that rocket will make multiple trips per day. So now, and he's not there yet, but that's his plan on the technology, is you will watch this rocket come down, be caught, get serviced, and go back up.
Wow.
Yeah.
And we had some astronauts stuck in the space station, and the U.S. and Russia and China couldn't save them, but Elon did.
Well, I think those two are still up there, but Elon is the one that's going to have to save them, because Boeing didn't trust their rocket to bring them back. They had a capsule up there to bring them back, and something went wrong with it, and Boeing didn't trust it. And Boeing said, we don't want humans on it. We're going to bring it back remotely. And they brought it back and everything was fine. The astronauts could have been on it, but Boeing wasn't convinced. So they had to leave them up there. And nobody else can send up rockets just like an Uber. But Elon kind of can. He'll just send a rocket to save them. Yeah, it's pretty crazy.
Maybe we don't need that. Maybe Elon can eliminate NASA.
Yeah.
Save us billions a year.
Yeah, pretty incredible what he's accomplished.
Anyway, it's going to be really interesting. What I've heard, over 3 million government employees in D.C. and how they're going to cut back. And just heard yesterday, a lot of them take their yoga breaks in the afternoon. And it is going to be. I think we're in for a
very interesting.
I think we're in for a great ride, and I think the ride's going to start fast. And those of us that are alive and in this trucking industry, we're going to have a great time the next 4 or 5 years.
I think so. I'm very cautiously optimistic. So we'll see what happens, but it looks pretty promising so far. I didn't realize this, and I haven't had time to really go read it yet, but Vivek has been making the statement that some of these agencies, like the EPA, and I don't know if he named any specifically, but he said some of these can be eliminated with an executive order. I didn't know that he'd be able to do that. That means no approval of Congress, nothing. That Trump could just come in on day one and say, nope, nope, that one's gone.
Well, there was a whole list on Hannity last night, and there's so many government organizations that look after us and harass us that I never thought there was that many, and the list just went on and on and on.
Yeah.
But anyway.
Yeah. All right. What do you got today?
Well, I had a phone call today. Guy wants to re-gear his truck. He pulled out a 12.7 and put a 14-liter in. He does haul B trains, but I had a meeting I had to run to, and I'm going to call him back after the show today. But he's running a 12.7 turbo on a 14-liter pulling B trains, and that does not work. When you're pulling B trains, you actually have to go one size larger with the turbo, especially on the turbine housing, because you have to use more power. And I said, I got to ask him two questions. I said, what is your boost on the level? He said, between 15 and 25.
Wow.
No, there's no fuel mileage when you're there. And anybody that looks at a boost gauge, whenever you see that boost gauge between 15, 18, 20, 22, 25, there is no fuel mileage with that. And the engine is working hard just to try, it's choking itself, it's working hard just to try to get the exhaust out of the engine.
Right.
And we talk about this and people continue to do it. So anyway, I guess that's what keeps us in business.
It's the idea here, Bruce, that you get like faster throttle response with that smaller turbo. Is that what they're after?
Really fast throttle. You get throttle response fast enough, you can chew through your drive tires.
Right.
So is that the purpose? Is the purpose to see how fast you can go from 0 to 60 or 0 to 70? Or is the purpose to see how well the truck cruises between 60 and 70?
Exactly.
And for those that want to run 75 and 80, I still have some guys that are running 75 and 80, and the goal is to let the truck run efficient at those speeds.
Yes.
It's not how fast you get there. And when we size the turbo properly, believe me, you get there plenty fast.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
When you drove my mechanical big cam, you didn't see any turbo lag in that, did you?
Oh no, not at all.
No. And that was a one size larger turbine housing than what came on that engine. But with the dual fuel line kit and the larger injectors and the fuel pump setup and the straight through quiet performance mufflers, you eliminate turbo lag.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so that's a misnomer. You don't want this tremendous acceleration right off the line because it only tears things up.
Good point. All right.
I was following a school bus the other day, and I was following a Ford pickup truck pulling one of those 3-car trailers in traffic just yesterday. And he was loaded, and he was right on with traffic. I mean, he just used a lot of power to go from traffic light to traffic light. And school buses are doing the same thing, and these people are just plugging into throttles, and that's not how you're supposed to pull weight.
Yeah. Yeah, and there's it's hard on so many things to do that. It's hard on fuel mileage, but it's hard on the driveline and the tires.
Driveline, tires, drive shaft, universal joints, ring and pinions, bearings.
Yeah, hard on
thrust
everything.
washers in the crankshaft. The list goes on and on.
Absolutely. Anything else
Hey,
today?
what about that large fine that the people that on the Grand Cayman Islands, DPF? Hold on. DPF Delete? Is that what their name was?
I missed that one. Oh, you know what? I didn't look at the news this morning. I had a weird morning, so I
Oh,
did. If it was in the news, I missed it.
this is a couple days old. I think these people were from the U.S. They got busted. If I'm thinking of the same people, they got busted in Utah. They moved to the Grand Cayman Islands and continued to sell their products into the U.S. under the name DPF Delete.
Nothing like telling everybody what you're doing that's illegal. That's crazy.
And the other thing, for those that are doing deletes, put mufflers on these things. When you see a new pickup truck or a new semi truck and you hear the engine roar and then there's black smoke, horrendous black smoke starting out in between shifts, that's a giveaway. That's saying, hey, I am guilty.
Right. Yeah.
Learn how not to be so guilty.
Yeah. Yeah. So what was
it befuddles me every day when I'm on the highway. There's so many deleted vehicles, and all you have to do is listen. You don't even have to look at the smoke. Just listen to the roar of the engine, and you can tell, because new vehicles don't have that same roar.
That's for sure.
Anyway.
All right. Eric, what do you got?
Well, I got a couple things. On that whole story Bruce was just talking about, that was crazy. There was a father and son team that ran dpfdelete.com business that were based out of Utah. They partnered up with two other guys in British Columbia who were actually smuggling the delete parts across the border. And in one of the emails, they even said, the Border Patrol's cracking down. How are we going to get these parts across here? And one of the guys from BC said, don't worry, we have lots of places we can smuggle stuff across the border with. And it's blatant in emails. So they moved it to Grand Cayman Islands, and it is
wow.
It's an actual. There's enough information on here to make a Netflix show.
Yeah,
like there's that much entertainment just from the article. And they got fined $33 million. All for it.
Well, you know what that tells you? If you understand how the government comes to these numbers, what it tells you is they made a lot of money doing this. That's how the government comes to these fines. If they come in and find a company that was doing this and made, $1 million doing it, the fine's going to be half that.
Yes.
If you got a $33 million fine, they made a lot of money doing this.
74 million to be exact.
They even know how. Okay, got it. I figured
they published it.
I figured it would be about half.
2017. Yeah, that was just between 2017 and 2023.
Yeah.
Now, these guys were doing it from 2015 to December all the way up to November 23. So there was 2 years that weren't even on the books. It's an incredible story to read about.
Well,
and it says right in the opening statement, violators of the Clean Air Act will be found and prosecuted, no matter how big or small. That's the opening statement of this from the EPA's desk.
Let's think about something.
It's great.
Let's think about this for a second. Let's just set aside that they were doing something illegal just for a minute. They ran a business, right? I mean, that's what this was, whether it was illegal or not. It's a business. You have to do all the things any business has to do. You have to market. You've got to go out and let people know that you're doing this. Then you have to be able to do the work. You have to get the parts. You have to manage people. There's a lot going on to generate $70-some million in revenue. If people are good enough to generate $70-some million in revenue, why do they have to cheat?
Yeah.
Why not just use that energy? And obviously, you know what you're doing. That's not an easy thing to accomplish. Bruce, do you agree? I mean, that's not easy. I don't care if it's illegal or not.
I agree. And things are recorded. NSA records. I mean, your shows are recorded. What's said, what we talk about on these shows are recorded. Phone conversations, emails, text messages, they're recorded. I know people that work there, right out on Route 32, north of DC. I go past it and during the summer about 4 times a month. It's a huge facility.
Yeah.
People got to be careful what they say. And you know, my 2016 Ram pulls so strong with full emissions. I'm burned through the drive tires in 12,000 miles, and it's not from quick acceleration. It's from going up the hills too fast, pulling a trailer.
Yeah.
Mike Lane explained it to me. He said, you're a 1 ton, but you're a single tire.
Right.
And you're causing the truck takes the snowmobile trailer. It'll take it up the hills in the Rocky Mountains at 84 miles an hour, and you're playing with the throttle, and you're still hardly hearing the roar. You know, I like to hear a little roar whenever you're into the throttle. And Mike said you're making the tires work too hard to grip the asphalt or to grip the concrete, whatever the surface may be.
Right.
And years ago, we sent one of our 800 horsepower big cams, went in a cab over Kenworth to Maine, and he was going up a brand new paved mountain, and he laid into the throttle, and a friend of his said, look in the mirror, we can see your tire tracks.
Yeah.
Pulling a loaded trailer.
Yeah.
So his tires weren't spinning, but they were digging into the new asphalt.
There's almost constant slippage at that point. The tire's never fully in traction. It's slipping a little bit the whole time.
And I like the fact that I can start that truck in my garage and let it warm up, and it is so clean.
Yeah.
It's cleaner than the Audi car.
That's crazy. Yeah.
And I even stuck my nose in the exhaust pipe. I said, this is unbelievable. And that's a 16. That's 8 years old now.
Right. Right.
And zero emission problems running the catalyst. And I haven't even had a chance to put Flashpoint in it yet.
There you go.
So,
all right.
I tell you, before the catalyst, yes, I was really against these emissions. But after Dr. Jane and I got together, and then Britt Bill, her partner, and we saw that we could have clean trucks and run the full emissions, it's like a no-brainer to me.
Yeah. And Bruce, there's no reason we're almost there now, really, when you think about it. We'll get to the same place we got with cars. We went through this in the 70s with the emissions on cars. It was awful. The cars were junk. Everything about them we hated. And now you look at cars, and I'm not even sure why I have a hood latch on some of my vehicles. It's like, why would I even open the hood? Nothing ever goes wrong.
Yeah.
Yep.
I open it every time I wash it just to wipe the dust off the plastic cover.
Right. It's pretty incredible.
And I'll tell you what else.
Yeah.
I love Lucas Slick Mist. I cover the entire car, and then when I open the hood and then I dry it, so the car's always waxed with the Lucas Slick
There you
Mist.
go. Yeah.
And then I open the hood and I'll spray a little under the hood, like on top of the radiator area.
Yeah.
And regardless of how old my vehicle is, it still shines under the hood, and I like that.
There you go.
So anybody that, even when you come out of the truck wash, if you just had Lucas Slick Mist and spray your cab and dry it, it's amazing how well that stuff works.
All right. Eric, did you have anything else? We're jumping around.
I did. I
thought
two
so.
more things. One, 2 weeks ago, we were at NASTech. That was my first year there. And I just wanted to give a heartfelt thank you to David and everybody that put the show on. I was blown away. The hospitality, the warm and welcoming attitude everybody had there, the helpfulness, just everybody worked together. That whole operation, David and his whole crew, is probably one of the smoothest running machines I've ever seen or witnessed in my life. It was actually awe. I was in awe a couple of times, just how in tune they were with each other. Everybody knew what everybody was doing. They were all helping each other. There was no stumbling. I mean, it was just really fluent, really, really well-prepared show.
Well,
the other thing,
let me
Go ahead.
stay there for a second, because one of the things I'll say about NASTIC, and I've spent a lot of time with them now. I spent a lot of time down there last year. I spent more time again this year with them. It reminds me a lot of Pittsburgh Power in that the teamwork, the loyalty, how long people have worked there. There are people that have been there for decades, and that's one of the ways you get a team like that, is they've worked together for so long. And it reminds me a lot of Pittsburgh Power, with the loyalty and employees being around forever and customer service. But the other thing I'll tell you, that event goes smoothly despite David, because if there's a fly in the ointment, it's David. He never stays on schedule. He just kind of wings most things, and it's his team that kind of keeps him together. And then when they threw me into the mix, and last year was my first year there, and when I was doing the keynote, I told David, I said, if I'm going to be down there, just keep me busy. Put me on panels, have me doing something, because I'd rather be busy. And he did. But they had to assign like 3 people to me, and they had radios, like, to keep me on track, because I never knew where I was supposed to be. I was always behind. And then when David and I do stuff, he just doesn't pay attention to the clock. And we run over, and then I'm late for my next event. So everybody's yelling at me. I'm like, talk to David. It was him. So he does his thing, and his team keeps everything else running smoothly, and they're really good at it.
Well, is David ADD?
He is. He is. I
No.
just the way he works. It's a lot like you and I, Bruce. I mean, his brain's all
Yeah.
over the place,
Yeah.
and yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, he
Well,
reminded me a lot of my uncle too.
We are creative.
Yeah.
ADD people are creative.
Yeah.
I wonder if Elon's ADD.
Well, he's autistic, I think, or Asperger. I mean, he's somewhere on that spectrum of like a savant kind of thing. I've said for a long time that ADD is a superpower. The problem is our schools, not the fact that kids think this way.
Yeah.
It's just the difference. Some people, they're very musical. Some people are really organized. It's just our brains work differently. And our schools are set up to teach one way and one way only. And it's why we have such horrible results. People with
Yeah.
ADD are usually pretty intelligent and can learn a lot, but you have to teach to them in a way that they can learn, especially when they're kids. As adults, we can adjust for that ourselves. But as a kid, when this is the only way they're teaching and that doesn't work with your brain, that's the problem. It's not the kid.
Yeah. When I had a boring teacher, I learned nothing.
Right.
I had to have an exciting teacher, a teacher that was hands-on, that showed we did things, we made things. I loved working with the hands, but history classes where it was a straight lecture, my mind was never there.
Yeah, exactly.
It was elsewhere.
It's right. It's the way we teach is and now we've just totally given up on teaching anything except memorizing stuff to pass a standardized test. So I'm going to go back to politics for just a second, because the very first department that Trump has said they will eliminate, the first one he mentioned was the Department of Education, and it needs to go.
Right.
And people are freaking out as though he's shutting down public schools or something. Bruce, do you realize the whole time you went to school, the entire time you went to school, the Department of Education did not exist?
Well, if they did, we never saw them.
They didn't. It wasn't. It didn't become a thing until 1979. I was almost completely out of school.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I didn't know that.
Yeah. Well, here's something else that people don't realize. They're all like, how are we going to have schools without the department? Well, we had schools for a long, long time without them. And in 1979, in almost any way you could measure the results, the U.S. was #1 in education in the world. In almost every way you could measure results. In 1978, the year before, we were #1. Now we're like number 28th in the world. I mean, the results are
Mhm.
awful. So clearly this did not work, and it does need to go.
So years ago, we'd hire a young man out of boat tech school. And when I was working in the shop, and I'd work with him for 2 weeks, and this happened many times. He'd say, "You taught me more in 2 weeks than they taught me in boat tech school in 2 years."
Yeah. Yeah, our system is just awful. It really is. And
Mhm.
it's part of it is the federal Department of Education. So that should just go. Then the other thing that needs to go, in my opinion, is anybody who works in any kind of government agency should not be able to unionize. You can't have both. Unions
No,
are hard enough to deal with. Government employees are hard enough to deal with. Unionized government employees are the worst. That just shouldn't exist.
I could never work for the government because what you talked about, you needed to stay busy. Oh, when I was younger,
Exactly.
I needed to stay busy. I found things to do. When I worked for other companies, uh, before I got in the engine business in 77, December of 77, they'd say, "What are you doing?" I said, "Well, I ran out of work, so I'm over here helping this person."
Yeah,
And I had to have stuff to do. And I wanted a busy day. A busy day goes faster.
much
I,
faster, right. Yeah.
back when I was working in the shop sometimes, or even when we moved to Saxonburg, I mean, I wasn't in the shop, and I'd be so busy in the office, I'd see the employees leaving at 3:30. The mechanics, I said, "Where are they going?"
Yeah.
I said, "Well, it's quitting time." I said, "Are you kidding me? It's 3:30 already?"
Yeah.
Uh, Days like that are phenomenal.
Yeah.
When I was traffic manager of Draveau's light metal plant, I moved about 35 shipments a, a week, and it was very interesting because a lot of it was high, 11-foot, 11-inch high counterflow furnaces and air conditioners. And then I had to go up to the rail yards, and I worked with low boys and drop decks and open tops. And my day would go by so fast. And I was in an intra-plant office, and we had a little space heater and a space air conditioner and 5 telephones, one on each desk. You ran from desk to desk. There was no push a button to go to the next line. And I loved that job, man. It went so fast, and it was
Yeah.
so interesting. And I met so many neat owner operators.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely. All right.
yeah.
Eric, back to you.
Yep. Two quick things. Number one, about the interesting teachers. That makes all the difference in the world. I can still remember Newton's third law of motion from my 8th grade science teacher, which we actually became friends after high school because he was a gearhead. He
Yeah.
was into mud
Yep.
bogging and race engines, and just we made that connection when I was 14 years old or whatever I was in 8th grade, and it always stuck with me. So it's a lot of it is the presentation. If
Yeah.
you have an interesting teacher that knows how to teach to the kids, makes all the difference in the world. Which is a step to the next thing I want to talk about, education. We had an interesting email. As most of you know, Bill is our president here at the company now, and both of his kids are going to the University of Colorado. And the university has been using the catalyst on over 90 of their diesel powered units out there with a significant increase in the performance of the vehicles and a significant amount of less downtime.
Wow.
So we're starting to get traction there. That was a big feather in our cap. I mean, to have a university with that
Yeah.
many units profess and send us email and telling us how happy they are about it, that was a huge success in my book. I was really pleased to see that this morning.
Yeah, that's exciting. Good stuff.
And that's all I have.
All right. Is Leroy around yet?
Not quite yet. We are working on some secret squirrel shit, as some people would say, or top secret stuff.
Oh, nice.
We have a couple trucks in here making some big headways with. There's going to be more news to come with this, but he is finishing up with some new R&D for product development. He should be here fairly soon, though.
Got it. All right.
So
Well,
Eric, I want to ask you a question.
Mhm.
You went to the Louisville Truck Show last year, and you were concerned, but man, you fit right in. You went to this past show last week in Nashville, and that worked for you. Isn't the trucking industry a fascinating industry? Sometimes when you get out of the shop or get out of the office and get to some of these shows.
Mind blowing. It's like a big family. Like I've never felt that welcome at any other convention or show or anything that I've worked before in the past or attended in the past. It's a whole different realm. Something I'm just not used to. It's still taking a little bit of adjustment. The flights are definitely going to take a lot of adjustment for me because that flight down there was horrible. The one back wasn't so bad.
Well, you can always drive.
But that's all. I'm all for it.
You're a guy
I
like
drive
to be
every
in
single
control.
time.
You're like an owner operator. You like to be in control. Just drive. That
That's
way you
right.
control your own destiny.
I would
But yes,
love that.
there's a lot more to trucking than just being in a shop.
Yeah, absolutely.
The family, the camaraderie,
Oh,
the personal connection you make with some people.
By the way, Ristler's got Small Trucking Company of the Year. They're part of our owner operator snowmobile conference.
Oh, really?
Yep.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Now
He had the only 4-stroke turbocharged snowmobile last year, and he sounded like a Model A climbing the mountains.
Now, was that the large? Because there's two categories, large and small. Was that the winner for the large category? Do you remember?
I thought I read where it said small fleet.
Well, it is the small fleet championship, but then they break it down into like 5 or 6 trucks and bigger and 6 trucks and under. There's some break there, and they actually give 2 awards. Yeah, and the reason I'm asking,
I think he was on the side.
Yeah, the reason I'm asking is because the runner-up on the small side, Jamie Hagan, Hellbent Express. Jamie's a good friend of mine, and I was rooting for him. But he was the runner-up on the smaller small carrier side, which is still a pretty big deal.
So they run all beautiful Peterbilts, and they call Ristler built Peterbilt because he has 2 sons that are in the shop, and they do beautiful paint work and body work and engine work, and their trucks are gorgeous. And it's quite a family affair. The wife is really into it. She comes to the snowmobile conference, and she's right in there talking trucks with us. And she's a really neat lady, and it's a great family, great operation.
Yeah. Hey, Eric, I forgot you didn't get to see. I'm going to use his new title now. You didn't get to see Ambassador Huckabee speak, did you?
No, I did not. I did meet him in the hallway, though.
What?
As I was leaving to catch my plane, he was actually out in the hallway, and I just introduced myself real fast and shook his hand and left.
Yeah, what a great guy. I sat down and talked to him, and I swear it was just like sitting down and talking to you or somebody I know really well. I mean, instantly it was like that. Just a down-to-earth guy and a great speaker as well. I mean, he was really good to watch and optimistic, and now he is our ambassador to Israel. That's his new title.
Yeah, absolutely incredible.
Yeah,
even like the first day when I was there.
We're trying to get him
the
on
elevator
the show.
and made the turn coming around the hallway, and I'm looking down there, and I'm kind of just sizing up the whole show. Like, okay, everybody's set up here, and out of the corner of my ear, I hear, "Hey, Eric," and I look, and there's Larry Bischoff, one of our customers we've been dealing with for years, and that was within the first 5 minutes of me getting off the elevator, and that kind of set the tone for the whole rest of the show. It really, really welcoming and warming. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
It's a whole different show than Louisville.
Well, you know what? We're gonna bring Mark in because Mark was at NASTIC as well, and I think that's what he wants to talk about. Mark, good morning.
Yeah. Great. Good morning. I just wanted to say that I missed Bruce there. I was looking forward to seeing him, but I got a chance to hang out with Bill and Eric, and it was pretty great. So, I visited with them probably as much as anybody, but it's just. The whole show was it was fantastic, and you just, you have to pay to go to it, but that just increases the quality of everything. So I just wanted to tell Eric I enjoyed hanging out with him a little bit, and visiting and all. And Bruce, you missed out on lunch because I bought your guys lunch, I believe Friday. So I was going to buy you lunch, but you didn't show up. So.
Hey,
Well, you know, I'm dealing with a smashed boat in Florida, and I had an interesting phone call Saturday morning. It was the insurance company, and they're not covering any damage anyway because the deductible was way too high, because it was a named storm. But you know what they told me? They told me, being I'm doing a lot of the work myself, I have to get my work signed off by a mechanic.
You're kidding.
No.
Oh,
so I gave them a list, a short list of things that I've done since my early days of racing, and even stuff we've done on boats over the years and everything, and the truck racing. And I still have to take the boat to another mechanic and have him look over my work.
And Bruce, let's be real. I know it might be boats, but you've been around boats your whole life. I've been around boats my whole life. They're mechanically, they're the same as any other vehicle. What are the odds that they're actually going to get somebody that knows more than you and is better than you to sign off on this? The odds are about zero, in my opinion. The odds are you're going to get somebody that doesn't have half your experience on any of this stuff signing off on your work. How ridiculous.
I was blown away.
Yeah, that's it. Hey, but I'm wondering, Mark, why I wasn't invited to lunch on Friday.
Well, you weren't there. If you were there, I would have brought you. I wouldn't have brought you exactly what I brought them, but you were off running around doing whatever you were doing. So I didn't know where you were at the time that I decided to walk over to Martin's, because that's where I took Bruce last year. But I would have covered you, and just you weren't there. So
I know you.
But you know, I wasn't trying to kill them. I mean, you know, it's like, it's just a one-time thing. So, you know, they get something special or whatever, because they're really good to me. And, you know, I appreciate you guys.
So speaking of that, did you eat the pemmican?
Oh, I absolutely did. I've got an order, and I've got to go pick up later today. I went ahead and ordered 30 of them for a month's supply, along with some bologna and some, I forget the other one that you talked about on there.
Liverwurst?
Organ meat, sausage, or whatever. Yes. And so, yeah, I've ordered that, and so I'm going to go pick that up later today. I'm sitting out in front of the Southern Tire Mart now. I'm ready to pick up 2 tires, because I had a tire failure Saturday, and then I picked up some kind of bolt clean yesterday, so I got to go get 2 more tires. So, but yes, the pemmican was absolutely delicious. I waited until I ate it when I got back here, and I was like, and so I went ahead. I ordered a month's supply, and I'll probably just take out a subscription, because it's something you can eat one a day. And you told me the owner, he's been eating one a day for 20 years, so
or more. So.
Yeah, I appreciate that. So.
Yeah, you're welcome. Are you guys familiar with what pemmican is?
No.
So this was Native American travel food, and the fur trappers back then ate a lot of pemmican. So what it is you take beef muscle meat, heart, steak, whatever, any cut that you would make jerky out of, and you dehydrate it just like you're going to make jerky, but you take it past that point and you get it so dry that you throw it in a food processor and you almost turn it into a powder. But you get very, very small pieces, almost a powder out of the meat. And then you mix that powdered meat 1-to-1 with pure beef fat. So this is 50% beef fat and 50% beef, but it's almost been turned into a powder. So you mix it, and it's got how would you even describe the consistency, Mark? I kind of say pudding, but it's not really pudding. It's firmer than that. It's very hard to describe.
Well, yeah, it's kind of almost like a pudding or a soft sausage. Kind of reminds me of when I was in Paris. They have actually real boudin over there, as opposed to with no rice like they do in Louisiana. So it was kind of on the similar
Like
similar to
almost,
that. I mean, they do offer a tub of it that looks like a pudding. So I was looking on
yeah.
their website and I asked her about it, and I thought, well, I'll just get the. They said that it wasn't as shelf stable as the wrapped individual sausages, for lack of a better word.
Yeah,
But yeah, it's something like that.
it would be really close to like a pate. If you've ever had a pate, it's very
Yes,
similar.
exactly. Yeah,
and it's in a tube,
yeah.
so you kind of squeeze it out and eat it. But it's shelf stable forever. I mean, virtually, it's going to be around forever. It's not going to go bad. And it is such a calorie bomb with all that fat. You eat one of those, and I don't even want to think about eating for like 6 hours after I've had one of those.
Well, and if you think about it, with animal fats, you know, like butter is shelf stable, so
Right.
you don't have to really refrigerate butter. So it's kind of on the same,
Yeah.
similar
Yeah,
to that.
that's
That, you know, being it's an animal product, that it doesn't spoil.
right.
So, you know, I mean, and we're the only country that takes eggs and washes them. Everybody else, you know, when I first went to Paris, I saw eggs out there just sitting out there, open cartons. I was like, what the hell is this?
Yeah.
And, you know, I was ignorant to the fact that we're the only country that, you know, refrigerates eggs.
Correct.
So,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah, if you go into, I remember I was in Costa Rica and I walked into a Walmart just because it was so odd to see a Walmart there in Costa Rica. You don't see name brand stores or big box stores anywhere there. And then all of a sudden, here's this big Walmart. And I walk in, and right in the middle of the aisle is this huge stack of eggs. I mean, big stack of eggs just sitting in the middle of the aisle. That they don't refrigerate their eggs in most other countries. It's not necessary to.
Yeah.
The problem is once you wash them, then you do have to refrigerate them because you wash that bloom off that protects them. So we're so freaked out that we wash our eggs. Now they have to be refrigerated. So this has become a big issue right now because RFK Jr. is already talking about, you know, why isn't raw milk legal to sell? You should see the comments. People are terrified. Oh my God, you can't drink raw milk. That will kill you. That they are terrified of this whole idea of raw milk. So after a while, I'm reading so many of these comments. I went in and I said, look, I dip my raw fish in raw milk and then I follow it up with some steak tartare with a raw egg on top. What are you people afraid of? My gosh.
They've been so brainwashed by the government and all with our food and everything that it's just it's embarrassing almost. You know,
99% of the crap they eat all day long, they can't pronounce half the ingredients in it, and it doesn't bother them at all to eat that. But talk about eating something completely natural just because it's raw, and they lose their mind.
yeah, yeah.
Well, Mark, let me ask you a question. When you're doing your walks up these 14,000-foot mountains, what are you eating to keep your energy up?
Well, that's funny you should ask. A year ago, when I went up, when I did Whitney, I brought this. I went to Kohl's. I brought this little. It's an egg cooker. You can steam eggs, like boil them or whatever. So I carried that with me, and I took a sack of boiled eggs and some meat sticks, and that's all I ate.
What are you going to take the next time you go?
Sticks. Well, I'm going to take pemmican from now on.
Yeah, that's right.
But you know, an egg you can just and it's not overly hot, so you can just put them in your backpack. You know, then maybe they'll crack or whatever, but they're boiled. So you know, I bought the best I could find meat sticks at a Vaughn's in Bishop, and so I took those. But I mostly ate boiled eggs. I just would, you know, I stopped a couple times and ate 3 of them. That's all I needed. And there was other people that were cooking oatmeal and this, that, and the other, and I was like, it looked disgusting. So.
Yeah, the pemmican's pretty incredible stuff.
Well, that's when I told Kevin when I first said that. I looked at it, I'm like, that's what I'm gonna take next time I go hiking in the mountains. I'm gonna take a sack of this. It's all you need. It's really all you need. It's not overly heavy. It's wrapped perfect. It's in fact the gentleman that owns the mountaineering company in Lone Pine, I'm gonna call him and tell him he should probably order that. He's got a little refrigerator there, and he could sell that. and it's people for food to go up there without having to take all of this. When I was in Colorado years ago, and I never knew what I was doing, and I went up Elbert. I mean, I had everything wrong, but I remember walking up, two guys I met, and some guy broke out a pack of cookies and started eating it. I'm like, I can't eat that. That would kill me right now because I haven't had any sugar in several weeks. And
Yeah.
I told him, you want some cookies? I'm like, I can't eat that. That would kill me right now.
No. Yeah. All right.
But that's what people do. They don't really understand. So, but yeah, that's a perfect food. So
right.
I appreciate you introducing it to me.
Absolutely. All right.
Mark,
hey, we're gonna.
Mark should allow. Mark, you should next time you're going to go walk some of these mountains, you should come on your radio show and let people know how they can get in touch with you and where you're going to do it and what time. Maybe some other owner operators would like to join you.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Get something going like that. Might be fun. Speaking of getting something going, we're going to get going on some calls here. We're going to go to Kansas. Bob, welcome.
Hey, Kevin, how's it going?
Good.
I just had a comment about your discussion on deletes and stuff. And I just want to say out front, I have incorporated so much in my business, and it's helped me so much. And not just my business, but my lifestyle because of your advice that you give. And, you know, Bruce and those guys are so smart on everything they talk about. And it's helped me be a better business owner. But when you guys talk about deletes and stuff, I think you're missing it. I mean, a couple Tuesdays ago, we voted overwhelmingly in this country that we want less government in our lives.
Hey, Bob, stop
I
a
think
second.
this goes across so much. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Well, I know where you're going with this, and I don't disagree. But I'm now that we got through all the pain of that decade of the emissions being a problem, and it was, and we talked about it a lot, and we worked on it, and I say we, Pittsburgh Power came up with many ways leading up to the catalyst. We had the Dorothy, we had the clean out system. I mean, we worked on. Now that we're through the pain, I don't want to go backwards on emissions. Not no, but hell no. I like the fact that, like Bruce said, you could start one of these vehicles in the garage and let it run. And they're dependable now, and they're powerful, and they get good fuel economy. I don't want to go backwards on this one. I'm really happy with where we are on emissions.
I certainly don't disagree with you. I have 4 Volvos that I absolutely love. They're full emission. They're 2022, and they amaze me every day. But I also have some older trucks, older technology that are totally deleted. I'll say it. My trucks, my older 07s to
those are the years
they
we were
are
talking about
completely
doing
deleted,
it, right?
100%, and they run so good. They are so dependable, and I'm not taking anything away from the Volvos either.
Hey, Bob, let
they
me give
all
you
work well.
Let me give you another analogy, because I do believe we are a nation of laws. Look, I'm known for breaking a lot of rules. I do it all the time. There are some I just don't, though. There is a difference between speeding and murder. Both of them are against the law, but there's a difference, and we have to use some common sense. This one, to me, is too big to just let people cheat. And here's another analogy. Here's another analogy, Bob. I don't believe in hours of service. So I'm not going to wait for the government to catch up to my thinking. I'm just going to go out and just drive without using a logbook at all, because I think that's the way it should be. Now, how well is that going to work out for me? It's not.
It's not good.
I'm not going to be in business anymore.
Let me raise this. Let me say this one thing about it. You tell this story about this Canadian broker that challenged the Canadian government and the U.S. government, and it's like one of the most inspiring stories I have ever heard. And we need those people out there challenging the government on their rules that make no sense
but Bob,
to us.
Bob, these people
right or wrong.
Hold on. This company let's just take this example. They didn't challenge the government. They just broke the law and tried to hide it, and even moved to another country. They had no interest in changing the government. That wasn't their point. Their point was to make $80 million breaking the law. And I can't agree
I
with
say
that.
good job.
I just
They
can't.
are challenging
Nah,
it
I
just
don't. No,
by
they're not.
doing that.
I disagree on that.
Let me say something here, Bob. You're absolutely correct. You said your 07s, 06s.
Right.
Those were straight EGR. Those were an absolute nightmare.
Correct.
That was the first attempt in 2003 through 2007, and there was only one cure for that, and that was to remove the stop, because there was no other help. People were going bankrupt. Actually, in 2008, when the first DPF came out, people were going bankrupt.
Yes.
That SDP Caterpillar, and we had a guy buy one. He was on, who has the green trucks that haul cars? Anyway, New Jersey to California, 20. Transport something. 26 breakdowns from coast to coast. I mean, what else are you going to do? There were people going bankrupt. I know of a family, they lost their home over it. They moved their teenage sons and the wife into the bunk of the truck, and they were doing homeschooling going down a highway because they couldn't afford to have a house because of DPFs and emission systems. Back then, that was the only way you could save it. And I
got to say one thing. I have never seen so many deleted trucks. I'm in the Midwest. I'm in the middle of Kansas. Maybe I see something different, but this technology is getting passed laptop to laptop every single day. They will never stop us from deleting our trucks. It is like a game of whack-a-mole. I can only compare it to the war on drugs. They will not stop it. This technology is out there. Everybody should just get used to it. They're not going to stop it. And I think that...
Well, then they should be prepared for $1 million fines then. I'm not... We just pointed out that they're being fined, and my point is I'm all for the new technology on emissions. I really am. I know it was a very difficult time. I wish it would have been handled better in the beginning. It wasn't. We got through it, and there's no way I want to go back. I like these clean trucks.
I agree. I think they have their place, but there are also a lot of us that like these older trucks that want it. You can't even hardly find the parts for them, a lot of them, because even the Caterpillar dealerships will say, just get rid of this and put the single turbo on them. I mean, that's what my Caterpillar dealership, when I was looking for some parts, some odd parts for one of mine, and they're like, why don't you just get rid of it? And I was like, that's what I'm going to do. Anyways, it is out there. It's not even just big companies anymore. This is not, technology is being passed from person to person. Are they really going to start going after the everyday guy? And just to stack on top of that, the Supreme Court took away the Chevron difference. And I think that is going to be the kicker. One of these things is going to go to the Supreme Court, and they are going to take away the government's right to enforce these guidelines like it's the law.
Hey,
it is
Bob,
not. It is just a guideline.
But hold on. Nobody's going backwards on emissions because of Chevron deference. Nobody is. We're never going back on this. Nobody is going to be able to build a diesel engine without all of these emissions because of Chevron deference. Now, what you may see is
I'm just saying there's a lot of us out here with the 2016s and the 2000s that have to work on these trucks and have to make them work.
There's no reason to delete a 2016. None.
Oh, they delete them all the time,
I'm
Kevin.
not saying they don't delete them, Bob. I did not say that. I didn't say they're not doing it. I said there's no reason to do it, and I'm against doing it.
They're doing it, Kevin. I'm just saying.
I'm not arguing with you. I know they're doing it. I don't want them to be allowed. So if they get fined, well, then that's their problem. I don't want to go backwards on this. There's no reason to. These just like cars. We have all the emissions on cars. They run fantastic now. I can't imagine anybody building a better car than the vehicles I own right now. They're virtually trouble-free. And the trucks are, I believe we're almost there, if not there already. So no, I don't want to go back. And we all agreed 06s, 07s, 08s, those were problem vehicles. That's when we were saying, look, this is all we can figure out to do to keep you in business is to delete this thing so you can get back to work. That's 15 years ago. That's not the case anymore.
Okay. I just am pointing out that there is a huge population of people that are doing this every single day.
Nobody's arguing with you about that. Nobody once said that's not happening. I know it's happening.
But people shouldn't have to be feared to have their livelihood taken away or go to jail or face $1 million fines.
Well, wait
just
a minute.
for wanting to live their life differently.
Wait, Bob. Nobody is doing that to the individual yet. I think they may at some point, but we're talking about a company that made tens.
Well, let's hope not. This is why I'm having this conversation, because I don't think it should be on the individual.
We were talking about a company that made tens of millions of dollars by breaking the law, and then when they got caught, they tried to move offshore and continue doing it. That's just wrong. That's just wrong for everybody that's playing by the rules. If there's some big
how many
advantage
thousands of people, owner operators, did they help make their lives better, though?
How many did they make
That's what
worse? I mean, it's not necessary to delete these trucks to make anybody's life better. That it's not necessary. It hasn't been for over a decade. You can make these vehicles run really well, and the cost of operation is very reasonable.
This is another thing, though. This is a lot of people do this just because that's what they want. They want to shrug off the power of the government.
Okay,
and that's the reason they do a lot of these.
Then I guess, are you for that breaking any law then? Just to stick it in the face of the government?
Isn't it almost a First Amendment?
No, come on. Let's not try to change.
It is. If an artist can make a painting and say, "This is why isn't my truck my painting? I own this truck. It belongs to me, not the bank, not the government, not Peterbilt."
Come on.
And I'm making it the way I want it.
When you do this, you weaken the First Amendment. By trying to claim taking a part off of a truck is your First Amendment right. Come on. Let's not weaken the most important amendment we have by stretching it to something like that. That has nothing to do with free speech. Well, look, I could say, hey, Bob, I'm going to murder you because it's my free speech right. How's that different?
Yeah, well, you can't do that because you're hurting me. I'm not hurting anybody by taking this part off of my truck.
Yes, you are. I don't want to breathe those emissions. There's no reason to breathe those emissions anymore. We fixed it. I don't want to go back to that.
Go stand over there. You're not being hurt. You go get away from my truck.
The interstate goes right behind my house.
Okay. All right.
I believe in America. I believe that there are people out there just like Bruce that want to work with their hands, that want to solve problems.
Nobody's
Every
stopping
day they want to build
anybody
something
from solving
unique to
problems.
We still do. We still make the truck run.
Yes.
And up to the owner operators' expectations. But we can do it and keep it clean. We still get great power and great torque and longevity and good fuel mileage. And I mean, you're seeing it with your new Volvos. And, you won't get any argument out of us on the removing the EGR on 2003 through 2007s because they were a nightmare. And you had to do that. You had to do that to exist. But today,
Bruce, you know, on these cats, my 07 cats,
I'm agreeing with you on the 07. I'm agreeing with you.
I know. But I'm just saying, like Kevin was saying that I put out all these emissions. My trucks don't smoke. They run as clean. I mean, they are so clean. You cannot smell them. You cannot see them. Even when you gas all the way, those trucks are controlled by computers. They don't hardly put anything out.
Bob,
maybe
that's not
the
true.
NOx or whatever
that's not true. If we measure what we're measuring, the newer trucks are absolutely cleaner. We wouldn't look. I did not agree with a lot of this, but once we got it right, these trucks are cleaner than any truck without the emissions. You're not going to put a truck out. I don't care how well it's tuned. I don't care how well it's built. It will not put out the same level of clean air that a truck with intact emissions will. That's a false statement. We can measure it. It's not hard.
Okay, you're right. You're right. But I know it puts out some emissions, but they're clean. They're not like, it's not sitting there idling like the old 855 slobbering up the stack all night. That's my point that I was making.
Oh, hey, now wait a minute. Now my 855s burn very clean. So
you're awesome, Bruce. You're awesome.
But I
awesome.
agree with you. I agree with you. And if I was to become an owner operator, I would probably be in a 379 or a W9 with a 6NZ, 2WS, 1LW, and it would be an emissions-free truck, and it would be set up to satisfy me, and I'm okay with that. And I love the fact that people are taking and redoing the older trucks and keeping them on the road. That's good. But we're talking about the new truck. And hey, these people that just got that heavy fine, they weren't doing, I don't think they were doing semis. They were mostly pickup trucks.
Yeah.
So here's what we see. We see young kids in new pickup trucks, roaring black smoke. The noise is one thing. No mufflers, straight stacks. They're in traffic. They have to put out black smoke. People are there in their convertibles. Their windows are down. If you're going to do it, keep it clean. You can set the ECM so the truck will still be responsive, but it doesn't have to roar the black smoke.
They're just dumb kids, though, having a good time.
I know, but
I think you had
they're
a
ruining it for the rest of the people.
And if we start talking about pickup trucks, we're not talking about anybody's livelihood anymore. We're not talking about keeping a business running. Now, I get it. It could be in some cases with the pickup truck, but for the most part, it's not. It's people who went out and spent $50,000 or $60,000 on a pickup truck, and they wanted to roll black smoke and make a lot of noise. There's no other good reason for doing this.
Isn't that their personal freedom, Kevin?
Not to roar the black smoke.
But you can't just break laws. We are a nation of laws. Then you got to work to change the law if you don't like it.
Let's go one step further.
I totally agree. We're a nation of laws, but sometimes we need that element.
Well, we're gonna
shove it.
Let's just stop there and let's just agree to disagree on this one issue. Because I don't think we're going to change each other's mind.
Let me say one other thing. When you look at the new Camaros, Mustangs, and Challengers, and there's some pickup trucks now, 1,000 horsepower. But when you can go out and buy a 700 horsepower car and a 16, 17, 18-year-old kid has it, and you see it every day out there, passing on the right, passing on the left. And my God, if there's 3 lanes of traffic and it's all going 80, they're going 100, cutting in and out. They've ruined it. Instead of just sitting back and relaxing at 80, they've got to cut. They use all 3 lanes to get a couple cars ahead, and they're going like hell. And it's just too much power for these younger people.
Yeah, you're right. I do see that. What I really am talking about, this is our fundamental right to just put the finger right in the government's face. And I know that it's not
Hey, Bob.
Perfect.
Let me give you.
I know there's lots of problems with that kind of attitude, but that is how America's always been. If we go back to the Vietnam era, that's what really, all through America, from the beginning of the Independence War, that's what those 29-year-olds were doing to Great Britain. They were giving them the finger, and that's what America is about. We cannot just lay down. I know there's a lot of good things about America. I understand that, but we have to use this power that we have and maybe it's not perfect, and maybe there's a better way to do it, but at least there are kids still out there willing to do stuff that says,
so Bob,
in
your mind,
I believe in America.
I do too, and I couldn't be more happy that we are starting to dismantle the government, but we're doing it the right way. If I take your thought process, I have a question for you. which laws are okay to break and which ones aren't. If we're going to give a big middle finger to the government by just breaking laws, which ones are okay to break and which ones aren't?
The ones that are okay to break is where no one is harmed.
Then Bob, you're wrong here. Emissions harm us. I completely agree with that. Emissions are not good for us. I do not want to go back to those days of walking across the truck stop parking lot with my eyes and throat burning from diesel fumes. I remember
Neither
those
do
days.
I don't want to go back.
So don't
I'm
tell me
talking
this
about
doesn't
for
hurt
all
somebody.
of us bottom
It
feeders
does.
that are out there running this old equipment.
And that I'm fine with that. I've always been fine with that. That's your option. If you don't like the emissions, that you can still build a mechanical engine. You can drive a 59 Brockway if you choose to. Nobody's stopping you from doing that. And I don't want them to. But I do want them to stop you from breaking the laws we already have. Because if you just start randomly breaking laws because you think it's justified, where does that end?
I don't want to be that. I definitely don't want to
That's
break
anarchy
laws.
is what that
I don't
is.
want to. I want to stay inside the law, but I do want people to know it should be our right. If we think a law is wrong, we should be able to stand up against it and say,
and break it.
Hey, I don't like this
break
law.
it or change it.
Yeah. What is that called when you break a law and you're doing it in protest? I can't think of that.
But again, Bob, where do you choose? Because I think these politicians are so evil that I'm going to shoot one because it's better for society. That's the kind of thinking that this leads to.
No, you can't.
It is.
That's not what I'm saying at all.
You just said it's okay to break laws, and I asked you which ones. Who gets to decide which laws you get to break?
I just don't see it as a link between shooting somebody and putting emissions out of my stack. That's a pretty far reach, is all I'm saying.
Of course it is. That's what I mean. Once you break a law, where is the line now? It's okay to break this law. What about the next law and the next law? And obviously, when we get to murder, everybody's going to go, "Oh well, yeah, you can't do that." Well, where is that line though? What laws are okay to break?
The line is where you're harming people in a physical way, though. I think that emissions are not that dangerous. I think that we have raised the government has purposely raised the guidelines to a point that
our environment is so toxic. Please don't tell me emissions aren't a problem. Our entire environment is toxic because of crap we've done like this.
The United States have lowered in 2017. Donald Trump's administration announced that we had lowered our carbon footprint by 25%.
So is that
a good thing? You know how they did it?
Is that a good
nobody
thing?
talked about that. That was this is the largest economy in the world, and we lowered our carbon footprint by 25%, and nothing got said about it. Do you know how we lowered it? It's because we started fracking. Fracking started a natural gas revolution, which now, and the reason it lowered that 25%, 66% of that is because of the burning of natural gas.
So you're arguing for a cleaner environment. I am too. So if natural gas is cleaner, we can use it. But we can also use diesel fuel, which is a better fuel. And we can keep clean unless we start deleting what we've already accomplished. That's what there's no reason to do this just to stick a middle finger in the government's face. Pick something that actually accomplishes something good and do that.
Bob, you said you have some new Volvos and they run fine and you're happy with how they run and they have the full emissions. So you're answering your own question there. You're happy with your new trucks and they're performing well. So you have no plans to delete the new Volvos, right?
No. But okay. I do think not the new ones, but I do think in all these troubled ones, they should be able to delete them. They should be able to just get rid of those problems. Those older trucks, I know you guys can fix them. You guys are brilliant up there. And I'm telling you, I think you guys are absolutely brilliant. But there's a lot of us out there trying to make our business work that have a sensor go out. And for some dumb emission part, my truck can't go, or it's decreased in power. And we have to fight that every day. Now, we could run it over to Bruce's and he could fix it up right quick, but we don't have Bruce's out here. We don't have those people. When we take it into shops around here, they
Hey, Bob,
they sit on it for weeks. They don't get it done.
I'm going to make one more comment and then we're done. I'm not going to do this all day. Here's the comment. What you just described, an owner operator with an 06, 07, 08, that is almost not, that is a very, very rare occurrence these days, but that's what you keep arguing about. The original article is about a company that did 70-some million worth of deletes on pickup trucks. Totally different, completely different situations. And I want that company punished and put out of business.
You talk about picking winners and losers. You're asking the government to pick a winner and a loser. That company was selling things to people who wanted those things.
What you're describing is called anarchy. I'm a libertarian, not an anarchist. Come on. If you don't like the law, change it, but that's the law, and you can't break it to the tune of $70 million and think we're just going to look at it and go, yeah, okay, that's all right.
They were selling products that people wanted.
That break
right
the
or
law.
wrong.
That
People
break the
wanted it.
law. I don't care. People want cocaine and heroin. Let's just make those legal again too. Let's like Oregon tried. Let's just make them all legal. People want them, and I've actually talked about that as a libertarian, but I've never said you shouldn't be. If there's currently a law in place, you follow the law, or you pay the consequences, or you change the law. That's what you're talking about is just anarchy. You get to pick whatever law you want to break.
Kevin, you changed my mind one day. We had an argument about marijuana, and you changed my mind.
Good.
It was like some day that marijuana had. And anyways, it was like once a year they had this big day, and I argued against marijuana. And you told me that people should have the right to do with their body as they wish. And I still disagreed with it. But over the years, I have thought about that argument a lot. And if people
missing
want
a big
to
point.
harm themselves, they can.
Myself, I'm not saying I should be able to walk into a building somewhere and smoke marijuana where it's going to affect anybody else. I've never said that. When I do it at home or away from other people, it has no impact on anybody. No negative consequences whatsoever. Now, if I smoke marijuana and I go out and get my car and kill somebody, I should be charged with murder.
But it's the thought process.
I know it's the thought
being
process.
Free to go get your whatever you want
all right,
in
Bob,
your life.
Bob,
that is,
do you have anything else you want to talk about today? We're done on that one. We're just going to have to agree to disagree.
No,
We're not going to change each other's mind on this one.
You bet.
I have to leave at 1 o'clock.
I do appreciate you guys.
I know.
I don't disagree with you all the time. I
this-
think you're brilliant. I think the Bruce and the guys are brilliant.
Hey,
and
what about
I
me?
don't disagree rarely. What's that?
What about me?
You are brilliant. Absolutely. You have helped me so much. This health thing is so amazing.
Hey.
My life is so much better. Oh, it's so amazing.
Good.
Every day I get up and I cannot believe I am 49 years old. I have given up drinking. It has changed my
Bob,
whole mindset. The way I talk to my kids.
I'm going to continue. I'm going to continue to fight for as many freedoms as we can get, because I agree with you on that. But it doesn't mean that we just get to choose which laws we want to. Or I'm okay with this too. If you want to break those laws as some sort of protest, you can, but don't think you're going to be exempt from the consequences.
That's right. I'm okay
take the
with consequences.
That. Yeah, I'm okay with that. I just don't want to do it.
I still think you're brilliant on your numbers thing.
I really
Just to
like
change the
these
subject.
trucks.
I have been tracking my numbers for the last 2 years. Kevin, I've been in business for 25.
Good.
In the last
good.
2 years, you
Excellent.
finally have convinced me to start tracking my numbers. And it's amazing. You are right. You were right about tracking numbers and getting it down. It has helped me so much. You guys have all helped me. I just wish you could kind of see my point of view, but it's okay. We're good.
That's right. All right. We'll talk again soon. Let's go to Arkansas. Richard, welcome.
I'm gonna have to have me a breathing session here now.
I have a feeling there are a lot of people driving around screaming at their radio from both sides. I'm sure of it.
Yeah, I ain't gonna say nothing else about it, but I've heard more out of a 2-year-old. But Bruce, why would you expect anything less out of a insurance company? And also on the additive, if y'all get too big, Eric, please do not sell out, because if y'all sell out, they're gonna change it, and it ain't gonna be worth the shit no more.
Well, you touched on something right there, and I think about that. I'll be 76 in February. Is it time to say adios and goodbye and let somebody else buy me out? And I know what they would do. They would destroy the company and cheapen the max mileage catalyst and the flashpoint, because everybody wants to make everything cheap. But I prefer quality over cheap.
Yes.
So I've thought about that, and so anyway.
So back to my point of calling, I had to change my fuel filter last night, and when I changed it, I got the DAFCO. It's got the clear thing on it. So I drained some fuel out into a jug so I don't get fuel all over the place. But when I changed it out, drained some of the fuel out, I noticed some look like black flakes in the bottle that I drained it out in. I didn't try to feel of it or anything to see if it's mushy or hard or whatever, but what could that be?
That can be LG. Go ahead, Eric.
Do you have rubber fuel lines or plastic fuel lines?
I think they're rubber. And I've changed them all. It's a 2000 T600 12.7 Detroit. I did change them out. I bought the truck about 5 years ago. I think it was about 4 years ago, and I changed them out whenever I bought it, because I had one of them that was already bad. So I just figured I got changed one out. Might as well go ahead and change them all out.
Did you do all of them, like the suction and return lines?
Yeah.
Okay. Two things it could be. Number one, it could be algae. Number two, I'm going to say it might be asphaltene too, only because you're from Arkansas. Do you pretty much run like down the south a lot?
I'm from Missouri, but I normally do the Midwest, so I'm up in Ohio, Pennsylvania, back over this way.
Okay, so you're getting colder weather then. Okay, a lot of the trucks that we see with asphaltene is usually from warmer conditions, and then because the way the Detroit routes their fuel system, they're more prone to it, because asphaltene is when you heat and compress diesel fuel. And the way the Detroit fuel line is, they compress it and then they return it through the head to heat it up before they send it back to the tanks. So I do see more asphaltene in a Detroit-based fuel system than I do in other ones. With what you have going on, being that you're in the colder weather now, it may be some form of algae. You can do a fuel analysis. They're not the cheapest thing out there, but if you're really trying to zero it in, it can really help you out dramatically as far as which way to point the direction. I would take some of those flakes out of that jug though, and kind of smear them around in between your fingers. See if they have any consistency at all, or if they're just like a slime substance. If they're just a slime substance, it's either algae or asphaltene. If it's got consistency and you can actually feel the particles, that's your fuel lines starting to inflate from the outside in, starting to deteriorate. If you're back to the algae or asphaltene, you want to look at the inside of the tanks as your next step. If you have now on your tanks, I'm assuming you can see to the bottom of the flashlight with it without the cap on. Is that correct?
Yeah. Yes. And I just got some fuel, and I meant to look in them before I put the fuel in there. And when the caller was on, I was just trying to hope things would hurry up and go, so I just forgot all about it. Got distracted there.
No worries. No worries. So on the asphaltene, it is like a plastic polymer that will actually grow in a secluded dark area. Excuse me, which is exactly what a fuel tank is. So it'll actually attach itself to the lining of the tank on the bottom and then start growing upward toward the outer walls. So if you can see in there from the bottom and your tanks are black, then that's probably asphaltene. Another way you can check is a rag on the end of a stick and actually kind of like scrape the bottom of your tank. If it starts coming off in flakes, that's usually asphaltene. But if you're just stirring it and making like what they call murky water, that's going to be more of an algae issue. That's how you kind of try to zero in on what you have going on.
Now on the fuel sample, does Horizon do that?
Yeah, they do fuel samples,
but you do have to call Horizon.
And it's pretty expensive.
Yeah,
and I've never found a really good reason to pay for it. One of the things is your fuel, because your fuel changes constantly. The fuel you put in the tank right now and test is not going to be the fuel that's in there in 3 days.
Right. Okay.
So unless you've got some sort of fuel-related problem and we just can't figure it out any other way, it's pretty rare that I would recommend a fuel sample.
Okay. All right, I'll get me a rag and get down at the bottom of the tank there and kind of see what happens with that. I'll have to drain some more of that fuel out of it because I went ahead and threw that other fuel away. I didn't think about messing with it this morning when I did that, but I'll drain some of it out this afternoon when I get stopped and see if I can roll it around in my fingers and see what it feels like.
Yeah, that I think that's a better approach right now. Eric, can you think of a time where, like, at one point I thought fuel sampling could be valuable, and then the more I thought about it, the more I looked at it and tried it a couple times, I realized I'm not sure when I would ever use this.
No, I agree, because the last time I priced it out, I think it was around $300 or $400 for a test.
Yeah, it's not cheap.
If you have a 100-gallon tank, you're paying $3 a gallon. It's cheaper just to drain the fuel and put new one in.
That's.
But you can do a lot of.
There's a lot of troubleshooting we could do to figure out, like you just described, that we know the things that can be in fuel and we know how to figure out which one it is without.
The testing that I just described doesn't cost you anything.
Right.
So, I mean, it's well worth it to take a couple minutes out of your time and try to figure it out.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Let's go to Indiana. Lauren, welcome.
Hello, yes.
What's on your mind today?
So I'm a fairly new to the trucking business, and I just got some basic questions here. Can you hear me okay?
Sure. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so one thing, I keep hearing people saying that, you use the downshifting to slow your truck down in order to save the brakes. My question has always been, doesn't that put wear and tear on your engine?
So first off,
I'd rather change my brakes than change an engine.
So the truck you're currently driving, auto shift or manual shift?
It's an auto.
So when people tell you should downshift to slow down the truck, are they telling you to put it manual and downshift?
Well, no. I mean, I've got this lever on the side here that operates my compression brake. So, like, let's say I'm going down a hill or something.
So, yeah,
Pennsylvania.
Let's just address your first question. I mean, I don't want to make a blanket statement about when you should downshift or not. It's different in every situation. But to answer your question, using the engine to slow the truck down, whether it's downshifting or the engine brake, the compression brake, or both, really isn't going to cause any excess wear on your engine. So if that's your concern, don't worry about it.
Okay.
I mean, that engine is turning all the time. And what causes wear really is the combustion of fuel. That's what causes all of our byproducts that get into the oil and can start to wear out the engine. And when you're under the Jake brake, there is no fuel. When you're coasting against a gear, even with the Jake brake on or off, there's really no fuel being burned. The engine's still turning, but you're not really wearing anything out any faster.
Okay.
So
So
I
it's the
am
fuel.
in the right
Burning the fuel.
situations. Absolutely. I mean, when I travel in my coach, we're talking about the same engine, we talk about on here, same engine, same tires, same everything. I do not need to use brakes coming down any pass in the country. I mean, I don't ever have to touch my brakes. If I start at the top at the right speed, and I have a true automatic transmission, not an auto shift, but I can still do the same. I can just use my engine brake to keep me at the right speed, a 3-stage engine brake, and I don't ever have to touch the brakes. And if I can do that, that's exactly what I'm going to do. Now, we have to talk about road conditions. Under really slippery road conditions, you want to be very careful with the engine brake or not use it at all. And you even need to be a little careful about allowing the engine to downshift. If it downshifts right, you could break traction or wrong, you could break traction on the drive tires. So it's not a blanket statement, but I will say anytime it's safe and effective to use the engine instead of the brakes, I will. And I never worry about excess wear.
And the logic behind that is to save your brakes.
Well, it's both. I mean, it's to save the brakes. It's just I think it's safer to come down a long pass with the Jake brake, and if I can maintain speed with that. When I need the brakes, they're going to be completely fresh and ready. Now, here's something else we need to realize. We worry about brake fade on a long downhill because it's dangerous. That's why we have runaway ramps. But brake fade at some point is going to be a thing of the past. Disc brake. Do you have disc brakes on your trucks and trailers?
No, I have discs on the trailer. Yeah.
Disc brakes don't fade. So that whole issue of worrying about brake fade coming down a big hill, once we move to disc brakes, that's no longer an issue.
Gotcha.
Can I ask a question?
Next question.
Let me just say one thing about driving. When you're going along an interstate, you're going to get off at exit 43, and right now you're at mile marker 45. Let's say you're going along at 65 or 70. At what point do you start to slow down when you know you're getting off in 2 miles?
Well, I usually right around a mile. If I'm loaded, usually around a mile, I'm starting to take my foot off the acceleration.
There you go.
Right. Letting it coast.
And when you come to the ramp, now we're not saying you're in rush hour traffic and it's bumper to bumper. We're saying you're out in and there's room for people to pass you. When you come down to the ramp and down to the stop sign, and before you have to touch your service brakes, are you down 15, 20 miles an hour?
It varies a lot whether I'm going uphill or downhill, but
Sure.
Yeah, I try to use my brakes as little as possible.
Well, you're doing it right.
Yeah.
You're doing it right.
Okay.
The rule is just don't. You'll see people, and not owner operators, but you'll see people. They'll pass you, and they'll hit that exit ramp at 70 mile an hour, and then they're standing on their brakes. I don't understand that. Not even in a 4-wheeler, not a pickup truck,
right?
Not a semi truck. Just ease out of the throttle and slow down and get on their exit ramp. And the longer the exit ramp, the better for me, because I just like to let the vehicle coast.
Bruce, when I went to a 2-week truck driving school, I really didn't need to. I could have just gotten the truck and started, but VA paid for it. And I thought, a little bit of practice before I go out wouldn't be a bad thing. With 2 weeks, you don't get a lot of driving time on the road. Did a lot of backing up in the yard, but the times we did go out, I had an instructor that he didn't have us drive around for hours and hours and hours on the interstate. What he would do is he would get us on the interstate and he would make you bring that vehicle to a stop at the end of the ramp without using the brakes. That was a requirement. You had to learn, he taught you, but you had to learn how to come off of a ramp and basically coast down to the stop sign without ever touching the brakes. And that was just a good thing to learn.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Now,
I got another question here too, as
Bruce,
far as
Bruce,
maintenance goes.
There's a good story about this too. And when we talk about, you talk about this all the time, freeing up the truck. You just talked about a small turbo that'll strangle the truck. And we talk about rolling resistance and resistance in the engine. And when we built that first signature truck and we sold it to the guy in Salt Lake City who he had a fleet that ran from Salt Lake City to Portland. And he would occasionally drive. And when he bought that first signature truck, he drove it in the beginning. And he had been doing that run for so long that he knew the ramps he would get off. He would get off the same places all the time. He knew exactly where to let off the throttle, and the truck would coast right down to a stop at the stop sign. He'd been doing it for years. He said he almost blew through that first stop sign at about 25 miles an hour the first time in the signature truck because everything rolled so free.
I remember that. In fact, he said at one spot where he was down usually at 15 or 20, he was still at 45.
Yeah.
And he knew that he was going too fast.
Yeah.
And that's free rolling. So
right.
You have to take that into consideration.
Lauren,
one time I had a Saab 9000 and I took it in for inspection in PA, and the guy said, and he was a Saab specialist, he said, "Your back brakes are rusty." I said, "Why do you think that is?" He said, "Because you're too easy on them."
That's right. Yeah.
Pretty good. Okay, so as far as maintenance goes, this truck, it's a Volvo 2020, got 416,000 miles on it. The person I bought it from, he's got 18 trucks on the road or whatever, and he's been doing this for 20 years. He says he changes the oil, around 100,000, every 100,000 miles, and that's on a conventional oil. Now that's different from what I've been hearing from everybody else.
So
he says it's been working for him.
We can talk about this. I'll tell you. So we could go all the way back. Bruce, you might even remember 7,500 mile oil changes, 5,000 miles, maybe go back that far.
Not in a semi truck. It was 10,000. It's always been 10,000.
Yeah. I know when I started, it was 10,000 and we just changed that 10,000. Both Bruce and I started studying bypass filtration way back when. And then we started saying, look, you don't need to change your oil at 10,000. You change the oil when the sample tells you it needs to be changed. And we were finding you could run with a really good bypass filter, the OPS that Pittsburgh Power has. We could run trucks out hundreds of thousands of miles without oil changes by watching the sample. What you're seeing now, your truck actually has bypass filtration from the factory. And I believe your year of Volvo is somewhere between 60 and 75,000 miles. Look in your manual and you'll see exactly on your setup what the oil change interval should be. But then you can also just go by oil analysis. I'll tell you what this guy's doing, though. He sold you this truck with how many miles on it?
385.
And that's about the time he always gets rid of his, right?
I think so, yeah, somewhere around 400,000.
So here's what fleets have figured out. Fleets have figured out that drivers are a big issue. They can't run their trucks out to 1 million plus miles, which would make much more sense to do that. But drivers want new trucks, so these fleets realize they have to turn their trucks over 400,000 to 500,000 miles or so. And then they realized if they're going to do that, they don't need to do much maintenance at all. Now, we're not saying that's the right thing to do or the best thing to do, but it's the best thing for them when they know they're getting rid of the truck. The maintenance that they don't do now is not going to affect them. It's going to affect the next owner, you. So if they were just running out to 100,000 miles without doing oil analysis, we don't know what kind of damage they may have done to that engine at some point. If they had fuel dilution, they would have done damage. If they had coolant intrusion, they would have done damage. If soot got too high, it will do damage. If dirt gets in the engine and we don't catch it, it will do a lot of damage. So that 100,000 mile for them is just saying, we don't have to take care of this truck because we're not going to keep it long enough for it to matter.
I see. So this oil analysis that you're talking about, where do I get this done? How much does it cost? How does that work?
Eric, you want to tell them?
We actually, yeah, sure. We actually sell the oil sample kits here at Pittsburgh Power. You can call us or order them online, whatever works best for you. It's a very easy process with an OPS unit because there's a Schrader valve on the side. You just push a button and it'll dispense your bulb. If you don't have one of those, you can do it a couple different ways. The messy way, of course, would be to unscrew the drain plug and take a little bit of a sample of it running out. The other way, which a lot of people are doing, is what we call a vampire tube or a suction gun. The suction gun, you would just buy a suction gun at like Harbor Freight or anywhere that would have some kind of tooling.
And buy a
and
cheap
you just
one.
pull up on a handle and it pulls it right up through the dipstick. Yeah. And you want to make sure that the hose is clean, it's never been used. Other way, which a lot of guys are doing now, is they just go to their local hardware store, buy a piece of clear nylon tubing, feed it down through the oil drain tube, put your thumb over the end and pull it up out. And just let your thumb off and that'll fill up the bottle a couple times. The bottles are small. They only hold a couple ounces of oil, maybe like 3 or 4 ounces.
And then we mail that back to you. Is that how that works?
Well, they'll set the kit comes with a mailer that you're going to send it right to the lab, and then the lab's going to email you with your results. And one of the things we do on the show all the time, since we've been working with this same lab for about 30 years now, you can call on the air and we'll go over your oil sample with you.
Okay.
And if it's in the process of time, we also offer that here at Pittsburgh Power. That's part of the oil sampling process. Is not only do you get Kevin's support, you also get our support. And they do a very easy grading system, 0 through 4, and they color code them. 0 is a blank; it's just black and white. 1 is green, 2 is yellow, 3 is orange, 4 is red. So you can quickly glance over the report, and if there's no orange or red, then you should be okay. If there is an orange or red, though, they send me an email alert. It comes into my inbox every single day. Like today, I have 12 of them already. I'm going to call all those people back within the first business day or two and go over those samples with you one-on-one over the phone. And we're going to try to figure out where this problem is coming from, how severe of a problem it is, and how to remedy the fix.
Gotcha. Okay. And how often should you test your oil?
25,000 miles.
Okay.
Have you changed your transmission and rear end and axle lubes?
I haven't done anything. No maintenance.
Yeah, that's coming up.
You want to do that. You want to change all the lubes and the power steering. You want to change that. Anything that has lubricant, you want to do an oil change or gear lube change.
And you're saying how often?
500,000 on those.
500,000?
Yeah.
Okay. So I wouldn't be quite there yet, I guess, but.
No, just something you're coming up on.
Gotcha. Okay. Okay. Also, your catalyst, does that kind of pay for itself with fuel mileage then too, or how's that?
It pays for itself. The return is $5,000 to cents per mile. It costs you a penny a mile to run it. Keeps the engine clean inside. It eliminates 70% of the soot and carbon. Keeps your sensors clean. Keeps your emission systems clean. So it's a huge savings. You may not see fuel mileage. If you mix our Flashpoint with it, you will see fuel mileage. You will feel a power increase and a smoothness. The max mileage catalyst makes the engine quieter and smoother. The Flashpoint even adds to that. So
Okay.
diesel fuel has a lot of the good stuff taken out since the late 90s, and it's up to you, the operator or the owner of the truck, to put it back in.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, that's all I can think of right now, but that's helpful. I appreciate it.
And then 2 other things to do: keep listening to this show, and stop into Pittsburgh Power and build a relationship with them.
Okay.
There
Sounds
you go.
good.
All right. We'll look forward to hearing from you in the future. Let's go to Michigan. Steve, welcome.
Hi, guys. How's it going today?
Good. What's on your mind?
A couple questions. So I have a 2007 NXS Acert, and it's starting to get like a hesitation or a miss in like intermediate throttle, light throttle. Full's fine and good power when you get in it. If you're in slow rolling traffic or something like that, it's starting to miss in a intermediate throttle.
How many miles are on your injectors?
If they weren't changed when it was overhauled at 1.1, they got 1.8 million on them.
They're good for about 800,000 miles. So
Okay.
you may have injector issues. You could get to one of our remote tuners and have them go for a ride with you and have our engineering department on and see what they see. Are you running the max mileage catalyst in that?
Yes.
Okay, well, that's good. Did you try the Flashpoint?
Not yet. Still working on my stockpile of EDT. Once that's gone, we're looking to switch over.
Okay, all right. So you're running another cetane improver. So at this point, do you get near our shop?
Not much, but one of your remote tuners is only maybe half an hour away from me. Nick Carter down in Elma, Michigan.
Oh my! Go see Nick. Great guy, and make an appointment with Nick. He'll make the appointment with Leroy and JR, and go from there.
And then one other question. Heard of it, but I've never been able to find them. Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say there's one other test you can do too, but Caterpillars are kind of notorious for this. Does this feel like a real fast miss, like you're shutting the key on and off like real fast when it does this?
So I've had that when just after I bought the truck, the fuel water separator housing had a hairline crack in it, but that's now been deleted. It's got a fast system on it. But we've hooked up clear hose, looking for bubbles or anything like that, and everything seems good there. This is, I guess, via the color I can see out the stack when it does do it, it's kind of like a brownish, grayish, white color. Definitely not a black, rich smoke when it does it.
Okay, well, there's one other test you can do too. There is a known problem with the injector harness on those. And this is
so
on all
it has
Caterpillars.
been,
now on your
we just replaced that probably half a year ago.
Okay.
When did this problem start then?
So I had it just before that, and then we were going to replace that harness. It was pushing oil out the connectors on the valve covers pretty good. Cleaned everything
that's
up.
Exactly where I was going.
Okay. Yeah, that's actually the second one we put in this truck, just because of that problem. The quality of parts these days definitely not greatest anymore. on that end. So, but this one's about half-year old and it's still fine. Other than that, I didn't know if there's anything else I should maybe look for besides an injector test. That's where we're leaning towards. No check engine lights or anything.
I think JR, that's JR's favorite engine. And you should have him look at that through the computer, through Nick's computer.
Okay. All right. And speaking of the injector harness, one other question. Somebody told me that somebody makes, and I can't find them, the actuators, the connectors. That is our little kryptonite on this deal. They just keep coming loose over time and not getting good connection. Pull the valve cover off, kind of crimp it back down a little tighter, and it's fine. And it could go 4 months, it could go 2 months, it could go a year. They just seem to not stay seated well, and it's just plastic and plastic. Do they make like an O-ring that would go on that connector to keep it tighter and more centered?
Is that the little 2-prong, like the one
Yes.
with the horseshoe clip on the back of it to lock it in?
Yes.
Okay, then yeah, they will. That's very similar to actually a 7.3 Power Stroke injector harness. Actually, it's the same plug, I'm pretty sure. You can buy replacement rubber O-rings for those at any like Power Stroke website, like Riff Raff Diesel, Thoroughbred Diesel. A lot of the 7.3, they'll sell them. You're going to want to get injector O-rings, or I'm sorry, not O-rings, injector plug weather tight seals, or I forget how they name them in there, but you're going to get them. I think they're pink or purple in color, and they're made out of like a silicone. But they're oil based because of the Huey injector inside a Power Stroke too. So yeah, that's actually the same plug-in if I'm not mistaken.
Okay. All right, we'll look into that. And then comment on your guys' just regular maintenance that you decide to do. One thing that we do religiously every year, change the belt on the front of the motor. I mean, the year might be early, but it's definitely a peace of mind because I don't know about you, but it's not going to break in the most pristine conditions. It's going to break in 100-degree temperatures in Florida. It's going to break out in Iowa when the snow's blowing 30 miles an hour. And it gives you that chance to just check all your pulleys and make sure everything, because we've caught an idler pulley just by changing a belt. You don't hear, it's so hard to hear stuff on these trucks that have to feel it.
Are you running our damper and balancer on the front of the crank?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep, damper, balancer, OPS, manifold. Last two things on the list are fleet air and a tune.
Okay.
There you go. All right. Good
All right,
stuff. Hey, this is the Power Hour, so I want to talk about this. You guys should appreciate this. Bruce, I'm looking at Elon's latest rockets. Listen to this. So each Raptor rocket engine produces twice as much thrust as all 4 engines on a 747. So get that in your mind for a second.
Wow.
One Raptor engine on these rockets produces as much thrust as 8 747 engines. We got that so far?
Wow.
There's 33 Raptor engines on every rocket.
Crap.
So 33
Holy
times 8, that's like 250 times more thrust than a 747.
That's hard to even imagine.
Isn't it? That's crazy.
Oh my.
And if you've ever been in a 747 taking off, there's a lot of thrust.
I've never been in one.
Yeah, it's crazy. There's a lot of thrust. I can't imagine 250 times more thrust.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's wild. Let's
Where does he take these off from? It'd be worth seeing one of those take off.
You know, that's a good question. Where is Starbase in Texas? Is he launching all these from Texas? I'm not really sure. That would be something interesting to go see. I'll have to look that up and figure out where all these launch. To watch that one where one is launching and the other one is coming back is pretty crazy. Let's go to Kansas. David, welcome.
Hello, Kevin. Can you hear me?
I can. What's on your mind?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
All right. Yeah. Well, just on what you just said, that it goes along with what you always say. You know, it used to be when NASA would shoot off a rocket, everybody knew it was going on. People went and watched it. Here, we don't even know where he's launching his from.
And he's launched 112. That was a couple days ago, and I think he launches like constantly. You're right. It's pretty weird. I'm looking it up now because I really don't know where they're launching these from.
Right, exactly. So the reason I called, and I'm not calling to debate that anymore, because I pretty much agree with most of your take on it, but with Bob's call, one of the things, and he skirted on it, but never really come out and said it. And the one thing where he's frustrated with these regulations and stuff that's dictating what we have to do, and is, you know, those decisions, and this goes along with the Chevron deference, is the fact that weren't these decisions all made without going through the proper channels like
Correct.
we talk about with the Chevron deference, you know?
Correct.
You know, these people weren't elected. They just, the bureaucrats, and they make these rules, and that's what's frustrating about it. So I think that's what he's kind of leaning towards, just never come out and said it. And then the other thing I wanted to point out, and Bruce has even said something in the meantime to reiterate this, is, and, you know, if people didn't use the catalyst there's people that just have an issue that, hey, I got to use DEF fluid now. I didn't have to use DEF fluid. So those things are frustrating to people. I think why they're doing these deletes, but that's just my opinion. So,
yeah, no doubt. So hey, Bruce, they are launching from
Corpus Christi.
Boca Chica near Brownsville. Yeah, somewhere down in that area.
Well, Carmine just sent me a message, said Corpus Christi.
Huh. Okay. Wonder if there's, maybe that's all in the same area right here, but pretty incredible. There's an awful lot of launches going on. In fact, it's hard to keep them all straight, but I think I read somewhere the other day they've done over 100 this year. And every time these go up, they're releasing satellites. Thousands and thousands of satellites. I forget how much one, I should look that up too, how many Starlink satellites they can take up in one launch. But that's why they're launching all these. They're putting satellites up.
Hey, Paul just mentioned something, and it's so true.
well, I'm going to let myself go.
Okay, thanks.
Bye, guys. Thank you. Bye.
That people are rebuilding old classic cars and pickups and putting new engines with emissions on them. You know, that is it LS5 or LS7 Chevrolet engine? It's amazing how many resto mods, when you go to these car shows, that you see, and they're using these new engines. Now, are they putting on the catalytic converter in it? I don't know. But the hot rodders love these new engines.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, they're pretty impressive. Hey, I've got here's a trivia question. Eric and Bruce, how many satellites do you think one of these rockets can carry up into space? Now, these are satellites that are orbiting the Earth, and you know, they're used for internet. And how many do you think they take up on one rocket?
12.
Eric?
Let's say 6.
They just set a record, 143 satellites on one rocket.
My God.
Isn't that crazy? 143 satellites. These things aren't small. That's wild.
I'll tell you. It would be interesting to sit and talk with this Elon guy.
Oh,
I'm so thrilled that he decided to join Trump. I mean, that's the cat's meow right there.
It's pretty incredible. I mean, let's think about this. think about the technology of getting the rocket up into space and then deploying 143 satellites. I mean, it's one thing to fit them all in there. It's one thing to be able to carry that kind of weight up into space. It's another, how does it even work? How do they release 143 satellites out of this thing?
Did you ever watch a movie Twister?
No.
You never saw that with
No,
Helen Hunt, and I forget who the guy was. They drive that Ram pickup right into the eye of the storm, and they have this big contraption in the back, and it's kind of like the same theory. They're trying to figure out how the storm tracks itself, and they want to get these little remote sending units to give them information back to like airspeed and velocity and the traveling. So he just pins the throttle and just drives this Dodge Ram right into the eye of the storm, and they jump out, and this big canister in the back, these little pods just get escaped, and they just like come to life all through the tornado. That's what I picture. Like it goes into space, this hatch pops off, and all the satellites just kind of move around.
But think think about what has to happen to make that work. You know what I mean? It's mind-boggling. Crazy. All right, let's go to Ohio. Brian, welcome.
Afternoon, guys. Hey, the guy that called in about the black flakes in his fuel water separator, I had the exact same issue last Thursday. My suction gauge in my truck buried. So I wanted to get in there, could the flash point be loosening that up in the tank? That's when I have the issue, Eric, is when I run the flash point, and it's doing it again right now. My gauge is going up the bury. And I took the filter out of the Davco, and I cut it, and the black film feels like grease. It's real slippery. Now, would that be asphalting?
It could be. Asphaltene can be kind of like a slimy substance in there. Can you see to the bottom of your fuel tanks whenever you take the cap off?
I cannot. It's a green. I cannot. No. I've shined the light in, and I cannot. No.
Okay. But if the fuel level was low enough, could you see like the inside of your tank? Or one of those
I might be able to then. Yeah. Shine a bright light in it and see.
Yeah, even if your fuel is still kind of greenish, it still should be kind of translucent, so you can see through it. Even with if you scrape the bottom with a stick and a rag on it, see if it starts like floating chunks through the fuel. That'll tell you if it's asphaltene.
Because when I cracked the pit cock open, to drain that fuel water separator, and I drained it in a cut off just a windshield wiper jug, because I was surprised how black the filter looked, and there was all kind of flakes come out, and I rinsed that thing out several times, and then I checked that filter, and it had a black slime on the filter, and that's what I wondered if that could be asphalting.
It could be, yeah. Now, are you plugging filters up really, really fast?
Well, I just changed this in last Thursday, and it's starting to head up towards 5 on the gauge today already.
Okay, yeah, that's what it sounds like.
Would there be anything in the flash point that would loosen that stuff up in the tank, the slime?
No, it's a cetane booster, and it's a water emulsifier. It's going to only react whenever it gets introduced into the combustion, as far as the cetane and the lubricity adders and stuff. The water emulsifiers is going to take effect as soon as you pour it in the tank, but it's not going to affect like black stuff in there.
Okay.
Asphaltene, it's hard to do.
If I like when I pull that filter out, how big of a hassle would it be to package that and send it over? Would you be able to analyze that filter? Yeah, and see what that mess is?
I don't know if you could, because if that leaks out at all,
Yeah.
they're going to flag it hazard.
Right.
You're going to get big fine.
Big trouble. Yeah.
Yeah.
I could have
where are you calling?
What's that?
Where are you from? What state?
Oh, I'm in Ohio here, just south of Canton. Kevin's old stomping grounds.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
You're not too far from us. If you're over our way, I would say just bring it over. We can take a look at it that way, or better yet, bring the truck, and we'll give it a full diagnostics.
Yeah, you get all my oil samples and stuff, and my son is buying this truck off of me, and I don't want to sell him something that's going to be an issue right away.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay, I'll look in that tank and put a rag on a stick and see if there is a black film.
All right, there we go. Let's head off to Tennessee. Brett, welcome to the program.
Hello, how are you gentlemen today?
Good. What's on your mind?
Well, I have a 2016 Freightliner Cascadia, and I do run max mileage in it. And just this past week, I was at a shop, and I just had to plug it in, and they told me after 155,000 miles that my DPF filters were clogged like at 92%. So the same shop works with a DPF alternative out of Austin, Kentucky. The gentleman's name is Tyson. So I actually had him take my whole one box off, and he suggested I put new filters in. Tyson did, so I did that. And I also have a OTR tool, and so I'm watching this now. And I never got lights before, still don't have no lights, so which is a good thing. But I'm watching the silt level on the live gauge, and I'm wondering how that should climb, how much it should climb, and at what point does I do a regen, I do a passive regen to clear that out or something. And now I am bobtailing. I've been bobtailing like 500 miles, and it's showing like 39% silt level, and it says DPF temperature is 500 degrees.
It's going to climb a lot faster whenever you're bobtailing, because you're not putting a load on it, so you're not creating enough heat. As far as when it should do it, there's too many variables to give you an exact number, because that comes down to like quality of fuel, your driving habits, the ambient air temperature. There's just way too many variables there. But the bigger number you should be looking at is whenever it does a regen, how far down does the number go back to? That's where you want to look at it. When we see filters failing prematurely like that, it's usually an outside force that's causing it. Whether you have like a real small leaky injector and it's just kind of like dripping fuel every once in a while, that wet fuel isn't getting combusted in the combustion chamber, and it's going through the turbo, and it sticks to the face of the DOC, which will surface plug that and clog up the DPFs as well. Or a little bit of coolant leak. Is this truck using any coolant at all? Do you know?
No, it does not. However, I did. My radiator failed, that plastic tank, and it was squirting. And I changed the air filter, and up inside the air filter, I seen where that residue, like from that coolant where it dried, was up in there, because it was like spraying straight back towards where my air filter was at.
Oh wow. Okay, well, if it was actually ingesting coolant, I mean, the chances of it getting all the way down there would be pretty slim, but I guess there would be a possibility of that.
Right.
Again, I would say it was pretty slim, though, going through the entire engine and the combustion process.
Exactly.
Usually that's what we see as a premature fail.
Right. Okay. But Tyson, he checked the DOCs and the old filters. He suggested, because I'd already had those cleaned when I got this truck through him, the filters, and we don't know how many times prior to that they'd been cleaned, and they were aftermarket filters. So he felt it best to go ahead and put new filters on. But we didn't see any coolant or anything like that in the DOCs when he had the one box off cleaning it, or in those filters and stuff. So he said everything looked good.
Well, that's a good sign.
Right. So, but like I said, now I never am heavy though, because what I move new trailers and things. I'm leased to a company that it's a company out of Pennsylvania over there, R&R Express, and they do like trailer transit and those guys. And they also told me at this shop that I needed a computer update, which I went to Freightliner and had done. And you know, they're all telling me I need to go find a place to put my truck to work and load it up with some freight if I want things to last. That's what they're telling me.
Yeah, what they're saying is kind of true, but that's the whole reason behind the max mileage fuel catalyst is to generate the heat that you need to get rid of the problem at the root of its cause.
Right.
The
and
problem
I do
you're
use
referring
that.
to is build up. But okay, that's definitely your saving grace here, then, because the problem with the modern engines is if you don't have enough heat, you can't incinerate the carbon and soot in the engine, and therefore it'll collect on everything in the after treatment system, the turbos, the sensors, everything like that. And on the new emission stuff, they're actually putting electric heaters on the after treatment system, and they're running like oversized alternators and stuff to actually power those, because they saw that was the biggest problem was, you know, guys that were like yourself, you know, light hauling, you know, just kind of tolling along, they weren't generating enough heat and they were having a lot of failures out on the road. So the manufacturers are trying to up their game too. You're going to see that in the next 2 to 3 model year trucks are going to be electric heating elements on the after treatment. But in your case, I would stick with running the catalyst, but I would keep a close eye on your coolant tank, and also maybe even have them do like an injector cutout test and see if you can maybe try to find a weak injector that may be dribbling out a little bit of fuel.
Okay, all right. But so, do you think that the level this is rising, like I said, is bad, or is it more important, like you said, when it does regen, to see how far down close to zero it goes back? Is that the way it is, or what?
Yeah. I mean, yes and no. The more important part is how fast it goes back down. Yes, because I think because you're bobtailing, you don't have enough heat to really get rid of it, and that's why it's climbing so fast.
Right. Yeah, because I got the OTR tool and I'm looking at it, and it's showing my DPF temperature is like 498 degrees, and it'll bounce up once in a while to like 510 or something of that sort, you know.
Yeah.
So
watch it during a regen and make sure it gets up hot enough then.
Okay. All right. What kind of temperature should it be when it does a regen?
What engine was it again?
It's the DD15 and a 2016 Freightliner Cascadia.
Those ones, Leroy would be really good to answer that right now. I want to get up like 550 to 650, somewhere like right around 600, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
That's on like a passive. No, forced regen, I believe, is going to be the same, maybe a little bit more, just because there's no outside air flowing.
Right. Okay. And would the your other additive y'all were talking about earlier, would that be of any benefit to me? That Bruce was talking about with that other gentleman? Yeah, the flash point. Yes.
Yeah, the flash point would definitely help you. Now, you know, I need to go back to that for a second on the DPF though. Is your OTR, is that reading the inlet temp or the outlet temp?
All I'm seeing is his DPF temperature. What it says.
Is the number I gave you should be on the inlet side.
Okay, now here it says a CAC outlet temperature is showing 72
That's your
degrees.
chart air cooler.
Oh, okay. It says this is 73 degrees.
Yeah, that's basically like your inlet air temperature. I don't know the number offhand, and I should.
Okay.
If you want to give me a call after the show, I'm going to dig into this because I'm going to get you an answer for it. Because I can't think of it off the top of my head, and I need to go back and refer to Leroy. But give me a call after the show and ask for Eric, and I'm going to get you the answer.
All right, sir. I certainly appreciate everything y'all do. And y'all have a good day.
You too.
You too.
All right, let's head off to Illinois. Matt, welcome.
Hey, good morning. Kevin, you were off a little bit on your math with the rockets
Was I?
comparing a 747. Well, what you said was correct in the engines, but then at the end you said it'd be like 100 and some 747s. A 747 has 4 engines on it.
Didn't I? I thought I
So
did.
one engine has 8 times of one 747, one rocket engine. So technically, one rocket engine is only double one 747.
Correct. One is. Oh, I see what
Yep.
you're. Okay, got it. I see what you're saying. Yeah. All right.
So it's only, like,
Yeah.
I don't remember your number. The
Well-
30, was it 32 or 34 rocket engines? So that'd be like
33, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, so that'd be like 66 747s, same amount of thrust.
Okay, so here's what I was
Which is
doing.
still a lot.
I was projecting maybe because Elon also made the statement that in 4 years those rocket engines will be twice as powerful.
Well, that too, yeah. And he's
So,
building bigger and bigger ones, and
in 4 years, my math will be correct.
there's a meme out there. There's a meme out there that wants the I forget the acronym now. The DOGE,
Yeah.
the Department of
Government efficiency. Yeah.
Once Elon gets in there, there's a picture of like 40 rockets all taken off at once because the permits will get through fast enough to.
Yeah, Bruce, that's the other crazy thing. We may have talked about this once, that Elon actually has made the statement that they can build the rocket faster than the government gets the paperwork done.
I can believe that.
Yeah.
Look what it takes now to just build a building.
Oh,
Sometimes it's 3 years. In Maryland, it's 3 years of permit.
Yeah, we got to fix that.
So, yeah.
So here's something interesting I haven't heard anybody talk about. We talk about career politicians and, the current guy living at the White House.
Yeah.
Been there his whole life since, almost before I was born, I think.
Pretty close.
Pretty damn close to that time.
Pretty close, yeah.
How long has Trump been a politician?
4 years.
Well,
4 years.
We could say
4 years of experience, but maybe
Yeah.
somewhere around 10 he's been involved.
Yeah.
How long has J.D. Vance been a politician?
Boy, not long at all. He just
Close
became
to the same, somewhere not much.
right.
How long has
3
Elon
years,
Musk been a
coming up on
politician?
3 years.
Elon Musk isn't a politician. Even now, he's not. He's going to be an advisor here.
How long has Vivek Ramaswamy been in politics?
Right, not very long. Couple years.
So we got a whole list of people that are going to have a lot of influence that don't have all the baggage of career politicians.
And they're young.
That's a wonderful thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. People that most of their life they've been involved in getting shit done.
Yeah.
And
Building
they're good at.
very
Every one of them.
successful businesses. Yeah, all three of those three are very successful at business.
Well, even J.D. Vance, he's
Right.
built all 4 of them. Yeah. So they're
Yeah, that's what they do.
all up there.
That's pretty impressive. Yeah.
Yep.
It's going to be
Like I
interesting.
say, get ready for the ride.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm ready.
Well, hopefully we haven't just started World War III. Biden.
Yeah.
How did this happen? Biden is in the Amazon rainforest somewhere with his family. Who really approved the long-range missiles into Russia?
Yeah. Think about it.
We'll have to see what happens.
Also, we haven't been stifled for the last 4 years. We've been stifled for the last 6 because when Fauci released that pandemic on us, the virus It's been 6 years now. For 6 years, we as a public have been stifled by our government.
We'll see what happens. Looks like things could change. Like I said, I'm cautiously optimistic.
No.
So I've had my top end of my engine opened up 3 times in the last several months. So my oil sample came back. It was all for engine brakes. We had set an overhead, rebuilt them. That didn't fix the problem. Put all new solenoids in, and then of course one of them failed, and that was warranty. But my silicon in my oil sample hit 18.
Okay.
And of course, I just changed the big filter on the last service when I took the sample. If I'd have known that before, I probably would have drained an extra gallon. Considering it's in there from the engine being opened up and it's already in the oil, would you recommend changing it, or
when was the last sample you took?
Fairly safe. Well, just 1,000 miles ago.
And what were your wear metals like?
They're right normal. I got some have slowly been climbing, but I've got 681,000 miles since I changed the oil last. So I got a couple of yellows that are no big deal. Chromium's at 3.
Okay.
And that's the last 3 samples. The 3 samples before that, it was at 2. Nickel is up to 5 for a couple samples, 4, 3 before that. I mean, there are numbers that have climbed, but they're nothing of any concern.
Nothing to show any real wear at all. So, Eric, in a case like this,
yeah, the only other one that's even flagged as green is tin at a 2.
Yeah, which is nothing. Eric, in a case like this, do we know, is the 18 really dirt, or could it be a combination of dirt and any of the products used when we open things up and put them back together?
It's not going to be anything of the outside products we use. It's going to be dirt.
Okay.
And at 18, I'd be more concerned about bore polish than I would anything else. That's a tough one.
It is.
That would be.
It's right there on the line.
That would be from dirt coming in through the intake. I'm assuming this is already in the oil, so it's.
Was this dirt? Was this oil taken after they tore the engine apart?
Yeah. Yep. So my silicone for the last umpteen samples is 4s and 5s.
And now it's 18.
in between the last 2 oil samples, it was opened up 3 times.
How many miles are on the engine?
I checked everything on the intake. On the engine, 770.
How often do you have to add a gallon?
Every 10,000. Used to be about 8, but I switched oil brands, and it's actually slowing down.
This one's really borderline. It certainly isn't going to hurt to change the oil other than the cost. But if you're putting in a gallon every 10,000, we're only at 18. I might just let this one go.
Yeah, I was thinking maybe the next time I'm down a gallon, just drain an extra gallon out and add 2.
Yeah, I think I would do something like that rather than a full oil change.
I mean, it's not like I owe the oil that's in here or anything. It's
that's kind of why this is.
I've gotten the life and the money out of it, but it's. I also want to see how far I can go.
Well, that's kind of the thing. We could all pull a coin out of our pocket and flip a coin on this one. I just don't know that it's going to matter a lot either way.
And I mean, being that you're adding a gallon every 10,000 miles, it's not that original 11 gallons of oil in there for 681,000 either. So it's like Kevin said, it's a coin toss at this point. Me personally, I probably would change it. I like to be on this side of danger than the other side, just because I know how much these engines cost. And we always made it a general rule that anything over 10, we're going to look at it really close on the silicon. And
Right.
unless it's silicates from antifreeze or coolant in there, and I don't think you have anything with sodium or potassium or even molybdenum.
Nope.
I just think it's going to be more dirt and more abrasive than anything else.
Okay. Well, I think I'll let it go for one oil sample and see if it comes down a little bit by,
I have a
a
feeling it's
gallon or two
gonna.
of makeup in between the next sample.
I have a feeling it's going to come down enough. And I've seen, engines at 15 to 20 where we don't see any wear metals yet. Now, if it's going up for some reason, then we're actually going to address it. But why this is there. It was opened up 3 times. That's a lot. And that number's not that big. And every time you put in a gallon, that's going to go down pretty significantly. I would, just to keep the streak going, I think I would let it go.
Okay. And Paul just texted me. He got heads on his coin toss. So whatever heads.
Yeah, whatever that means.
Heads goes for.
Yeah.
That's what he got.
All right, there we go. That sounds like Paul.
Alrighty.
All right, talk to you soon.
Well,
let's go to Georgia. Mike, welcome.
Gentlemen, it's a pleasure to speak with you. I'm usually sleeping when y'all are broadcasting live.
Well, great to have you here. What's on your mind today?
I discovered y'all a few years back, you, Kevin, and Pittsburgh Power on the Blue Ribbon podcast. I'm sure Larry would want me to tell y'all that, but I was referencing the guy that called with the Volvo that he just bought, and he was asking if the max mileage would pay for itself in fuel savings.
Yeah.
It doesn't pay for itself in fuel savings. I got about 0.2 of an improvement. I have a 2020 Kenworth PACCAR MX-13 just for reference. I got about 0.2 mile per gallon increase on diesel fuel mileage with the catalyst, but I went from 83 miles per gallon on diesel exhaust fluid to 238 miles per gallon on diesel exhaust fluid, and that was about a 25 gallon savings per week at $4.20 a gallon. So that more than pays for itself.
Well, there you go.
That's about a $400 a month, $400 a month savings, and it's $2.20 per gallon for the catalyst, and I only use about a gallon every 2 months of catalyst. So I'd say it's money well spent. You're crazy to own a diesel truck and make a living off of it and not use catalyst.
There's somebody with the numbers. Love that.
Plus you're not losing any sensors. You're not having any emission problems. A lot of people were spending as much as $8,000 a year on emissions. So it's saving you that.
Yep, and it's also, I noticed too, because I had this truck for several months before I discovered the catalyst, it would regen 3 to 4 times during a 10-hour break, because like having an idle in the summertime, if I was down south and it was too hot to sleep, I'd get woke up several times with it regenning. Since I've started using the catalyst, it's never done a parked regen unless I've forced one through the OTR. And Flashpoint, I started using the Hot Shots EDT until you came out with your Flashpoint. Now with the Flashpoint, I've seen about 0.6 of an improvement in fuel mileage, and man, it runs so much happier. It's so much smoother, and I do use the double dose. Instead of 1 ounce per 15, I use 2 ounces per 15. But I think that's the best stuff they ever made in a diesel engine, is that Flashpoint. And of course, on emissions, the catalyst is great too. But I got a 2010 Ram 2500 pickup with the Cummins in it, and it is deleted. But if you remember back then, the after treatment was diesel, and that thing would shoot flames out the tailpipe about 20 feet if it was trying to regen. It's a little bit of a lawsuit on wheels. So we instead of paying $8,000 to replace all that stuff, we spent $3,500 on the head studs and the delete kit. But just to see if the catalyst was for real, I started, and I run it in it anyway, just because it helps save the turbo, because soot's the #1 enemy of turbos. But no, if you stomp on it, you get a little bit of black smoke at the turbo lag, but it's not enough to blind the road out. I mean, I can tell a huge difference in how much soot it actually kills. So he did a great job with those products.
Well, thank you.
And I'm very appreciative of you guys this Thanksgiving season. I'm thankful for all the information that you guys give and the fact y'all try to diagnose trucks over the phone. As a former mechanic myself, that's a nightmare scenario, and you guys serve the trucking public very well, and very appreciative of y'all.
Thank you. Appreciate it. All right. Thanks for the feedback. Let's go to Wyoming. Brant, welcome.
Hey, how you doing? I might lose you. I'm between Cheyenne and Laramie fighting 55-mile-an-hour crosswinds, so I don't know what the coverage is like through here. But I got two questions. First one is, what do the numbers on the turbochargers mean? I'm guessing the AR is the air ratio. I don't know whether I want bigger or lower or smaller or tall. I don't know what the numbers mean and what I need to look for.
What year is your truck? What year is your truck?
Well, my truck's a 99 with a DDEC4, and I'm running your turbo on it. I'm very happy. This is for heavy equipment. So this is a complete different animal. I do most of my heavy equipment operating above 5,000 feet, and I feel like the engines are starving for air. So that's why I want to put more air in there if I can.
Well, so you're above 5,000. Is this a 12.7?
Is it a what?
12.7 Detroit?
Well, yeah, but my heavy equipment's got all small. I got an 8.3 in a loader. I got an 8.3 in a loader, and I've got two 4-cylinder cats. So, I mean, this isn't a trucking necessarily issue. It's my truck runs fine, and I've got all your goodies on it. But I guess I want to expand. Try and steal some of your knowledge so that I can find out what turbo I need to run on smaller construction equipment engines.
Okay, so you have an 8.3 mechanical Cummins and a piece of equipment?
Yeah, and a loader.
Okay. Wow, I used to go up one size, but the fact that you're above 5,000 feet, that does make a difference. Do you have a boost gauge and a pyrometer on this piece of equipment?
I don't. I mean, I have the gauges. I just haven't installed them yet.
Okay. That would really help me to help you if we knew some numbers.
Okay.
I'm backing out of an underground garage right now, so I needed to leave at 1 o'clock, but I'm going to talk while I'm driving. So.
All right.
Okay.
All right.
All right. And the other question, this might be a Bruce question as well too. The Cummins L10 engine. I have the opportunity to get one for free if I pull it out of the bus that it's in, or I guess it's a coach. And I do have another loader with a very tired 8V71. And I was wondering, is it worth rebuilding the 8V71, or should I just completely repower, pull the 8V71 out, and put in a rebuilt L10? I would rebuild it before I installed it.
Oh, I'd put the L10 up to about 450 horsepower if you need it.
I don't need 350 would be more than enough.
Yeah, no. Put the L10 in it. You'll love it.
I was thinking it would definitely be quieter and it would definitely be more fuel efficient. I just didn't know if if that engine was okay for that kind of operation. I don't know where the L10 falls, where it falls in as far as big cam, small cam, N14, M11. I don't know where it falls into that spectrum as far as like a duty cycle.
Well, it's a 10-liter engine, so, but it will outperform what you're taking out.
Okay. Okay. All right. And I'll get the gauge in this winter. It'll probably be spring before I can have some good information on what I need. I mean, what my boost and pyrometer temperatures are. And I do have, the same question would apply for the two. Well, actually, I'm only going to consider returbo on one Cat engine. I think it's a 3304 Cat engine and a Dozer and a D5. I don't know. No, put gauges in it. Less space to put gauges. But I'm assuming the same principle would apply if I go with a smaller turbo or bigger turbo on the 8.3. The same principle would apply to the 3304.
That's correct. And make sure you put the thermocouple in the exhaust manifold so we get a true reading. And we'll need to know the reading when the machine's working hard.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. All right.
And,
I guess, well, seeing as I still have signal, I'm pretty amazed. I think it was Leroy was talking about getting 20 some pounds of boost out of a 7.3 maybe 5 or 10 shows ago. If that's who was getting the boost out of that, I guess I'll call him off the air, call him at 4:30 in the afternoon or so, and chat with him about how he's doing that safely.
That would probably have been me. I run a 7.3 power stroke every day.
Okay, yeah, all right. Well, I don't. No one else wants to hear about this, so I'll call you off the air. But
my name's Eric.
All right, that'll work. I think we might be losing him. Let's go to Tennessee. Tom, welcome.
Morning or afternoon.
What's on your mind today?
Hey, I just wanted, I don't need any questions per se. I just would like you to expound on this asphalting, where it comes from, what to do about it, and why it does that.
Let me just correct the word. It doesn't end in ing. It's asphaltene. So that's what's occurring.
Asphaltene?
Asphaltene. ENE is the end of that word.
Oh, okay.
Asphaltene is what's being created. And Eric, wasn't that also the name of the product? Asphaltene?
Yes.
Yeah.
Penray used to make a product called asphaltene. And it derives from the word asphalt.
Right.
Because that's a part of the asphalt painting process is they use polymers. That is what this actually is developing into. When you heat and compress diesel fuel without burning it, and it gets returned back to the fuel tank, it can create a plastic-like polymer. And that polymer will start to grow inside the tank. It'll start at the bottom, and then it'll continue growing up the side walls of the tanks. And what it will eventually do is cut back on the cetane of the fuel, the properties of the fuel, and your truck will start losing power. The fuel filters will get plugged up like really fast. And the only true way to get rid of it is to, at that point, drain the tanks out completely, have them pressure washed or chemically cleaned, change your fuel filters out, and then run all new fresh fuel through it. And then if we can find somebody that's going to continue to make it, because Penray discontinued it, we want to start using a product like the asphaltene in your tanks as like a residual cleaner to clean out all like the lines, the fuel pumps, the injectors, everything else that's left in the system that you can't physically clean the first time around.
Hey, Eric, I've got a question
Okay,
for
last
you.
time
I thought I understood this, but you said something that makes me, I do understand it, but when you say it grows, is it growing because we're adding more to it, or is this like an algae that it can grow on its own?
We're adding more to it because the way the fuel system keeps returning.
Got it. Okay.
Best analogy is kind of like Legos. You fat
Yeah.
one on top of
Okay.
another.
When you said it grows, I thought for a second it was like algae, where it's a living thing and it could actually create more of its creates more on its own. That's not what's happening here. The amount is growing because we keep returning more of it from the fuel.
Exactly,
So
and
Okay.
it's just like carbon and once
Yeah.
you lay down
Okay.
like a boundary level, it
Right.
just keeps building on top of itself.
Yeah. Okay.
last time I changed my fuel filters, I went to, you drain the fuel filter out, the clear glass. Well, it wouldn't drain, so I poked up in there, and in this big black blob of, I don't know if you remember that blob stuff that we used to play with as kids, but it was almost like that. I mean, it kind of adhered to itself. It was kind of stretchy, and so I was thinking that must have been what that is.
That's
I,
usually not what I see. Usually, like when you get a little bit of asphaltene in the bottom of a lid of a jug or something, it'll almost like separate itself when you push down on it. Can you see to the
yeah,
bottom
this
of your
was.
tanks on your?
Oh yeah. Uh huh.
Okay, take a look in there with a
Yeah.
flashlight. See if you can see any stuff growing up the side walls, and then use the stick method. Stick with a rag tied on the end of it, and see if
Right.
you can scrape chunks of it off. If it comes off in like flakes or chunks, yeah, it's going to be asphaltene.
Okay. And the only way to get rid of that is drain the system, clean it out, and start over.
Correct. Mm-hmm.
All righty. All right. I don't guess you have any idea what else it could be.
If it's not that, it's probably going to be some form of algae, but there's so many different forms of it out there, it's really hard to diagnose over the phone.
Right. Now, algae, if it's algae, I can just treat that, right?
Correct. Mm-hmm.
Okay. All righty. I appreciate it.
All right. Thanks for the call. Let's go
All right,
to Arkansas. Richard, welcome.
Hey guys, I just got one more quick follow-up question on this asphaltene fuel issue deal. Would it be a good idea to put a fuel cooler on the return line before it goes back into the tanks to try to cool that fuel down?
That would help.
That would help.
Yeah, we've actually talked about that.
I was going to mention that when the last caller was just on, but I'm driving, and so I decided not to. But yes, a fuel cooler would help.
Okay. Well, I will try that. Put that in mind and see what that'll do. Try to cool that, because I do have a Detroit, so it does get a little bit hotter. So I'm going to try to cool that fuel down before it goes back in.
I've got a question.
Yeah.
The fuel is not getting hot in the return line itself, not hot enough to cause this problem. That heat is occurring in the engine. Aren't we already
in the head?
Aren't we already forming the asphaltene? Isn't it like trying to close the barn door after the horse already got out?
Not necessarily, because the way this works on a Detroit is you're compressing the fuel, and when you compress it, you're heating it up. That's like what we want to call like the pre-ignition or flash point of it. And then as you're running the return line back through the head, you're extending that time. That's where it gets time to actually form, is in the return line.
Oh.
If it was just from the pump tank, it probably wouldn't be so big of a problem. Like if you look at a Caterpillar fuel system or a Cummins fuel system, a lot of those have different routing on the return lines. They don't suffer from this near as much.
Right.
That's why we see it predominantly in the, because it's the amount of time you're exposing the heat to the fuel is what's causing this.
Okay. Well, I will sure give that a try and put that in there and see how that does. I appreciate it, guys.
All right. Thanks for the call. All right. That's going to do it.
Hey,
go ahead, Bruce.
Wait 1 sec. On that cooler, I hope he can get one that has a fan on it, because that would really help if it can have a fan on it.
Durale makes a nice one. Derale. I use one of those in a race car for my transmission fluid cooler. It's all self-contained. It's got its own fan. Its own. You can get them with a thermal switch to turn on and off automatically. If you want to hot wire them up hot, they make a really quality product.
Got it. All right.
Maybe we
Go ahead, Bruce.
I was going to say, Eric, maybe we should look into getting some of those and making it compatible. See if we have to weld fittings on to make it compatible with return lines on engines.
They have pre-fitted line ends on them. They come with a different adapters to them. They're all AN or JIC style. The problem with that, though, is what fuel lines does that customer have on his specific truck? And we're talking about an engine that's been out of production for 20 years, and a good chance that there's not the factory fuel line still on that truck. So they can be more of a universal product, but yeah, we could absolutely keep them here.
You would be surprised. Most people do not increase the size of the return lines, just the suction lines sometimes.
That's true. I never thought this is on the suction or the return line, not on the suction.
Right. That's right. Okay.
All right. Well,
Eric,
that's our last call.
Eric, you answered a lot of good questions today. I'm impressed.
Sure did. It was a good
Thank you.
day. Good day.
I did get an answer too for the gentleman with the DD15. I did misspeak on the temperature. It should be between 1,000 and 1,100 degrees during a regen. I don't know where my mind was. I don't know if I was thinking of the inlet temperature or what, but the DPF filter itself should reach between 1,000 and 1,100 degrees during a good regen.
Got it. Got it. That would make sense because when I was studying the catalyst in my wood stove, it takes 1,000 to 1,200 degrees to burn the smoke. Mine
says 12 something. I have one of those.
Yeah, but then what happens with the catalyst in the wood stove is it lowers that temperature down to 600 degrees. The smoke, once it comes in contact with the catalyst, then that smoke will burn at 600 degrees. That's why you have the catalyst in the stove. That's interesting stuff. All right, any final words?
Yeah. Bob, the guy that called in from Kansas that has the new Volvos and the older Pete's. I'd like to talk with him someday off the air, but today's not a good day. If he would call me and leave me his name and number, we'd have a lot of things to talk about.
There you go. All right. We're going to wrap this up. Thanks to the team from Pittsburgh Power. As always, if you have any other questions, give them a call. We'll do it again next week, and I will see you back here tomorrow for Destination Health. Be safe, be profitable, be fit and healthy. Always do the hard work and master the journey.